chilly winter morning. I am Preeti Gaur, your host for the day, and I welcome you to the Shiv Nadar campus. We are gathered here for the Analytics Olympiad 2022, held in partnership with Shiv Nadar's Academy of Continuing Education and Machine Hack. I am very thankful to all of you, especially our panelists, for joining us today. It is an honor in itself to address an audience of such eminent dignitaries of the analytics industry. I would like to start the program by introducing Mr. Arun Gupta with a request to deliver the welcome address. Mr. Arun Gupta is the Associate Director for Academy of Continuing Education. Prior to joining SNU, he worked with the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, as Head of Executive Education, where he was responsible for on-campus and online open enrollment programs and managed end-to-end delivery of virtual live classrooms. Mr. Arun also was responsible for customized enterprise programs for various corporations, both from the public and private sectors. Mr. Arun also has over 24 years of industry experience and has held leadership positions in companies including GTL and Motorola. His previous assignments have included responsibilities of global sales and business development. He did his post-graduation diploma in management from the IIM Lucknow and his BTech degree in manufacturing science and engineering from IIT Kharagpur. Sir, please.
Thank you, Preeti. Distinguished guests, faculty members, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this campus, and I appreciate your time being being put towards the Academy of Continuing Education. The Academy of Continuing Education has a mission anchored in twin ideas of enabling lifelong learning and harnessing the very best of Shiv Nadar's rich intellectual resources. A university's long-term impact on society comes from the generation of advanced knowledge as well as disseminating this learning in a contextual and relevant fashion. ACE initiatives, for example this one of Analytics Olympiad, is to create a platform for industry and academia and researchers to come together and exchange ideas, get away from the humdrum of life, busy industry obligations, busy class obligations for the faculty, and working professionals to come away from their offices and organizations and come together here. And we hope that over the next few decades, we are able to create a confluence of ideas and intellectual generation of new, innovative course curriculum, of projects, of case studies, and professionals who are contributing back to the industry for development of new talent. With this small message, I welcome you once again to Analytics Olympiad 2022 and wish that you have a fruitful day throughout. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have an amazing panel lined up for the day. Our goal today is whatever your role is in this industry, that you will come away with something, a new idea, a fresh perspective, a new strategy that you can apply to be more successful in your business. Without further ado, I would like to invite our distinguished panelists for the first panel discussion. The theme of the panel is Industry Academia Collaboration for Research Projects and Consultancy. Professor Vamsi will be the moderator for this panel discussion. Dr. Vamsi is an assistant professor in the School of Management and Entrepreneurship, Shiv Nadar Institution of Eminence. He did his PhD in the field of information systems from the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta. Post this, he worked for a few years in reputed firms leading analytics team. Before joining Shiv Nadar, he headed the data science function of a renowned fintech firm. His research work has been published in leading journals in the field. He loves reading books, playing games, and socializing with people. I request you, sir, to please join me on the stage. Everyone, please welcome Professor Vamsi with a round of applause. I now introduce our next panelist, Mr. Bhaskar Roy. Mr. Bhaskar Roy is the head of ESG Data and Analytics and client partner at Fractal Analytics. He is driving digital transformation for Fortune 500 clients across industry verticals, leveraging the combined power of AI and cloud. He has previously worked at organizations like Target, Accenture, and Genpact and mentored startups through engagements with various IITs, AI analytics platforms, and angel networks. Throughout his career, Mr. Bhaskar has led several large-scale transformation programs, incubating new capability areas, starting new industry practice, and new geography development. He has also helped stabilize operations and expand the skill set and industry coverage at a nearshore center in Eastern Europe. Mr. Bhaskar is an influencer, thought leader, and holds patents in the areas of predictive analytics and optimization. He is focused on driving an impact on society at large with a specific interest in driving efforts related to sustainability, leveraging data as a core asset. Please, sir, join us on the stage and everyone welcome him with a round of applause. Our next panelist is Mr. Dipendra Singh. He is the head of data science at Network 18 group of companies. He has 13 plus years of experience in the data science and analytics field. He is an MBA from IIM Bangalore and has worked in consulting, banking, gaming, and media sectors. He has expertise in product analytics, marketing analytics, data science, and data engineering. He has delivered projects on app personalization, customer acquisition, and retention through deep learning and data science modeling approach. He has set up analytics practice for multiple organizations from scratch and is currently visiting faculty on applied ML concepts at various colleges. Please welcome Mr. Dipendra with a round of applause. Our next panel member is Ms. Megha Sinha. She is Vice President of AI/ML Practice at Genpact and manages go-to-market strategy from machine learning operations. She has over 12 years of rich experience in technology strategy consulting, enterprise application design, and software engineering. With an MBA from the IIM Ahmedabad and a Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics and Communication, she has enabled technology-led business transformation initiatives of client organizations in BFSI, CPG, retail, and healthcare in her roles at Genpact and previously at Accenture Technology. She has co-authored technical papers published on the Genpact website in leading media publications, including the Economic Times. She has been actively involved with not-for-profit organizations such as eVidya Loka for enabling the cause of education for rural children and WICCI to promote women in AI. Ms. Megha is a Microsoft Certified Professional Developer, Enterprise Applications, Google Cloud Certified Professional Data Engineer, IITIL Certified IT Service Manager, and Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. Let us welcome Ms. Megha with a round of applause. Our next panel member for this session is Professor Satyam Mukherjee. He is an associate professor at the Shiv Nadar School of Management and Entrepreneurship. He obtained his doctorate from the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras, and his research interests include network science, data analytics, open digital innovation, and sports analytics. His works have been published in Science Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, IISE, Transactions, Nature Human Behavior, Nature Scientific Reports, Interface, and Physical Review, and featured in The Economist, Times of India, and Wall Street Journal. He is one of the most prominent analytics and data science academicians in India. Please, sir, welcome on the stage. Professor Vamsi, now over to you.
First of all, I want to thank all the panelists for joining. The theme of the panel discussion that we are having now is industry-academia collaboration. Before I move forward, I want to set the tone for the panel discussion through a small story that I heard as a kid, but which I believe is relevant even for this discussion and even in this age. So this is an interesting story from Panchatantra. Once upon a time, they lived a monkey and an elephant in a dense forest. Both of them used to believe that they are the most important creatures in the jungle. The elephant used to boast that it's so strong, and the monkey that it's so agile. Both of them always quarreled as to who is superior. Finally, to resolve the crisis, to resolve the question of who is superior, they went to meet a wise old owl. The owl, instead of giving any answer, asked both of them to get a golden fruit and also gave the location of the tree where the fruit could be found. The elephant and the monkey set out on their journey. When they reached the tree, the monkey had to stop because there was a lake crossing which the tree could be accessed. The elephant, being the elephant, it swam in the lake and it went near the tree. It tried to shake the tree, but the tree was too strong. It couldn't get the fruit that was atop the tree. It came back. It had an idea. It asked monkey to climb on its back. It helped it to cross the lake. The monkey climbed the tree. It got the golden fruit. When they came back, the wise owl asked them, "So who do you think is more superior?" And both of them answered that it doesn't matter. Together, both of us are much better than what each of us is individually capable of. And that's the thing which is true even in case of industry and academia collaboration. It doesn't matter who is more superior. I would not go into the discussion of who is the monkey and who is the elephant in this partnership, but nevertheless, the important thing is that both of them are important, and together we can achieve a lot more than what we can do individually. With this theme, I would like to start the discussion. In the interest of time, each participant will have 4 minutes. After 3 minutes, Preeti will show a yellow card. So that is an indication that it's time perhaps to summarize the points that we are making. I understand that all the panelists are very passionate about this topic. So in the interest of time, we have this yellow card system here. The first question that I would like to ask is from Megha. So what in your view, Megha, does industry-academia collaboration mean from the perspective of industry? What is it that industry wants to achieve through this kind of a collaboration?
Very well placed, especially in today's times. See, if we look at the Indian ecosystem as such, right now there are 1,000 plus universities in India, around 9,000 accredited AICTE academic institutions. We are a country with 7.5 million MSMEs, and we rank third in the startup ecosystem across the world. Yet, if you look at the Global Innovation Index report of 2022, we stand at the 40th position. So definitely, there is something which is paradoxical in the way we are operating as a country. Now, if we look at, what are the market needs, right? And classically build a product market fit to build products of engagement. The first thing is demand for employable, industry-ready talent. And here the two adjectives, employable and industry-ready, is very critical. So while the numbers of academia and institutions churning out talent today is humongous, do we really have the talent that can be employable at workplaces from day one? So classically, what has happened? Companies have tried to solve this problem by bringing in the talent into their ambit, putting them on, let's say, a 2-month, 3-month long program, and making them fit to take up certain roles. However, what if we as industries could look at this talent problem and begin the engagement and nurture the talent right from the time they are inside the university campuses itself? So what does that mean? Maybe together we build a consortium of industries and set up COEs within universities where we bring, programs that are supplementing the existing programs, and we build throughout engagements so that these students get to know of the real world problems rather than being in the confines of the textbooks and theory. Because what is more important than theory is the applied research, the applied concept. So that's very important, number one. Number two, if you look at what the industry needs, we too definitely need, R&D initiatives. But then there is a classical difference in the way academia looks at R&D and the way we would look at R&D. Academia looks at R&D to find out new concepts and publish them. Whereas when industry requires R&D, we require R&D for short-term profit gains because we are in the business of making money, right? So that is something that needs to change. And third definitely is bringing in an entrepreneurial mindset on the campuses. So today, if let's say we are looking at the startup ecosystem, we need to critically evaluate, are we creating replicas of organizations? Are we creating replicas of products? Do we really need more grocery delivery apps today? Or we need other products or other platforms that can solve other problems? So where is the innovative mindset lacking in the student of today? And if I were to give you an example of, let's say, the analytics space itself, how many of the startups in the initial years would actually look at solving data quality challenges, or startups that can create platforms for solving data quality issues? So those are the kinds of things we really need to work at and come together in amalgamation and excel for the future.
Thanks, Megha. Next question is for Satyam. Satyam, what does industry-academia collaboration mean for the academics? What is the value that they see in this kind of a collaboration? We would like to hear your views on it.
Yeah. So thanks for being here, and it's a pleasure for me to be in this panel. Now the point is, I can probably talk on my views and not specifically the entire academics views because they will have their own views on this thing. So given my approach to my interest is basically like empirical first kind of approach which I have. So in this we have a very non-linear kind of way to analyze data, I would say. And my focus is primarily to target the high impact journals, so with some of my co-authors and all that, we have this empirical first approach or the theory first approach. So in both these scenarios, there is a paucity of data, I would say. So when I think of an industry academia kind of like a collaboration, I would expect them to share their data with us so that we can churn the analysis, get high impact papers, and possibly one of their members can be our co-authors. So that's how I look into this entire picture. And personally for me, I haven't really worked with industry that often because most of the things which we do, we kind of have to, like said, depend on the open data, or you have your own codes to scrape the data from the web. Especially for my sports analytics works, I actually look into like ESPN. But if we have some interesting, say, questions which is not available, but it's there in industry, so in that case, I think it would be a good thing for having a kind of a like a collaborative association with them, so that we can like target some interesting questions from them.
Thanks Satyam. So yeah, so from the perspective of industry, availability of good talent which can be employed, as well as some R&D initiatives, and from the perspective of academics, facilitating access to the important questions of the time and data. That's what we have heard so far. Next, I would like to invite Bhaskar first and then Deependra and Megha to share their views on how can such a working partnership between industry and academia be created. Starting with Bhaskar.
Thank you, Vamsi. I think that's a very relevant question and not one that we think very systematically about, unfortunately. What is potentially missing is how do you look at all the stakeholders that are involved in the decision-making process. As I see it, there are three: the institute, the student, and the industry participant. And we need to look at what is it that each of them are looking to get out of such a partnership. For students, while they are learning a lot of tools, techniques, or similar things that are being taught in different courses there, whether at institutes, whether at MOOCs that they are attending, or any other form of education today. But how do you link that to the industry problem that you're trying to solve? Because unless you're trying to look at the problem that you're trying to solve for, you will not learn the intricacies of what the data needs to tell you. It is not me trying to get an answer out, it is the data telling me what I should be doing and the insights that then come from it. The students need to learn that. The institutes gain in the process as well, because they establish a way in which they can start linking the theoretical knowledge to something that can be applied directly in the industry, or as we like to call it in the industry, translation abilities of a business problem to the data that is there and then eventually the outcome that it can drive. And for organizations like ours, I think the biggest benefit is access to the right talent at the right time, plus also how we think about the future, because it is, although we are all focused on profits, we do want to see what we can do today. But at the same time, I also want to see what's the next problem that I want to solve for. Not just academically, but how do I modify that and apply that to problems and become the next so-called unicorn potentially for tomorrow. That's the other part that many of us tend to miss out on.
How this partnership should be, and what I look at is, so what kind of projects, first of all, we have, like, I've worked with multiple industries, and the kind of collaboration I want to and I wish I have with the academia, where I see projects which requires a lot of research work. So a lot of and especially when I say research, it's not just simple googling it out, but it should be a futuristic research work. So we are looking at projects. We don't have hard deadlines for those projects, but we want those projects where the effort has to be in, where it is a futuristic requirement of the company for its sustenance. And as Bhaskar also talked about, creating more unicorns. So obviously, so that kind of issue, if they are able to solve, they can go out also with that as a solo product. Also some of the problems which, especially when I talk about in digital analytics, like content personalization, if you are able to solve this for one industry, you can go out and set up a company. It can be a company itself, which, while I'm talking to multiple vendors, they are specifically solving one or two problems, and that is kind of tools. So those kind of futuristic research, we require a collaboration. But there are, as we also heard from the other panelists, that Satyam talked about data sharing, the issues. Those have to be resolved, and setting up Megha talked about setting up a COE especially. So that has to be from both sides. What happens is, on the consulting side, they have resources, but companies like us, we don't have extra resources who will manage this partnership. But still, at a network 18 level, those kind of companies which are bigger in size, they should set up a special department which can manage projects with the academia. So at the first place, we are thinking about the project, then the scope has to be defined. But what we look at when we define the scope, the challenge is, we've defined the scope as to what we have seen from the data at a surface level. Then we've given to academia. They also should come back defining the scope. And there is first phase of project management that starts. Setting up a department is very important from both sides. But aligning resources, even from my team, if there is a project which I have thought about, at least I should align a manager level guy, because time, last time we also discussed when we met for a brief, that timing is also, we are not able to give time. Sometimes I'm not available and there is something they are researching on, they want to show me, but I'm not available. They lose, that velocity is lost. And secondly, there is a lot of changing hands from the academia side also, which I've seen, that a guy is working on a project, he's made some inroads, suddenly he moves out into an internship or something. Then it resets. So those things, if you are able to manage, then setting up that COE and structuring it out, scoping from both ways. So what they are seeing, what the academia is seeing in a project, if they can scope out, this will enable the collaboration, especially for the futuristic things.
I think building on to what Dipender and Bhaskar already mentioned, there clearly is conflict of interest working between industry and academia, and we need to shift to a confluence of interest where we understand where is the sweet spot between industry and academia that we can together work. Now, when talking about research and development R&D activities, I think there is an inherent need in the universities to protect the right to publish, right? Whereas when I look at the industry, what we are looking at is how can I build my IP and proprietary information which I might not want to publish in the market and make it commoditized. So that is the conflict of interest. How do I solve for this problem? Now, at our organization, we have certain initiatives such as the Genie program, etc., where we understand that it is very critical for us as an organization also to bring in the knowledge of esteemed professors who have done thorough work in certain areas. So let's say, for example, supply chain analytics. And we would bring them on board to help our professionals understand where their theory meets practice. Number one. Number two, when looking at the universities, there is an incentivization that needs to be done. Now, that incentivization is for your research scholars. It is also for the university, where you jointly come with the industry, identify problems, work on that problem together and co-publish. Wherein the right still remains with the university, maybe not with the industry, but you have solved for a specific problem that probably this organization was facing or this organization in a certain industry was facing. So that's the way of solving the R&D problem. The other problem obviously that we see in the conflict of interest is, like I mentioned earlier also, which is what are the kind of challenges you're looking at. Now, industry usually requires people with creative mindsets also having good theoretical knowledge, right? Whereas when we look at academia, I think we have more become as hubs of dissemination of knowledge rather than creating knowledge. So you have to understand how you can enable your students and tell them how to think rather than what to think. And if you're able to do that, you will be able to bring in a lot of different people with different diversity into a classroom and throw open challenges to them and tell them to solve those problems rather than going on the board with a chalk and actually telling them, this is the problem and this is the only solution possible, which is very classical in, if I were to say, management colleges. In management colleges, you are not given one defined answer to certain thing. The answer always is, it depends, right? And that it depends is what is very important in the industry, which we all need to collectively focus on.
Satyam, I have a very specific question for you related to this. You have worked in academic institutions all over the world. You have a lot of experience of working in United States where the ecosystem, the industry academia ecosystem is actually much more matured than what it is in India at this moment. So what are some of the best practices that exist there that you think that we can follow or which can actually benefit the ecosystem in our society?
It's actually a tough question for me to answer because I don't have any experience to work with industry in India, so I can only say, and I have just 2 data points from US when I was a postdoc there. So in one case, we had this kind of an idea which we want to test, and my PI he was teaching in Kellogg's. So his MBA student went and got placed, I think, in Thomson Reuters, and they has this data called Web of Science. So it was this association which got us the data, and no questions asked from the company. It was the files used to come to us, we used to analyze, and we got some publications out of it. The second case, which was from a company called Calorie King, it's an online healthcare kind of a company, and the CEO Keith McGuinness, I think his name. So he shared the data with the biology school, and they didn't know what to do with that, so they approached us, and we kind of studied it. We kind of played around with the data. We got some patterns in the data, and we published it. So these are the two things which happened, and in both cases there were actually no hurdles, to be honest. So in the first case, in the second case, the company guys, they shared the data on their own. That here we have some files. We want to see if you can find some insights. In the first case, it was like we were trying to get the data, but it was by a stroke of good luck we got that entire data set. So this is one thing which I observed over there. Some of my friends who are still over there, they say that their advisors, they write grants, pays the company to conduct experiments, get the data and publishes it. But when I look over here in India, actually I hear that it's not that easy. So what I am trying to say is that I think probably we should, get these kind of qualities which is persistent in US at least. I'm not sure about UK or Europe, to get over here, so that things get a bit easier in the industry academic setup. Yeah.
Sure, thanks Satyam. Next question I have for Bhaskar and Deependra. Both of you have been involved formally and informally in setting up some kind of industry academia collaboration initiatives. So the question that I have is, what kind of pitfalls need to be avoided in these kind of initiatives? It's easy to start something, but it's always difficult to continue and sustain, right? So what kind of pitfalls need to be avoided so that the partnership continues, flourishes, and remains sustainable?
Great question, Satyam. Great question, Vamsi, sorry. And I'll link back to what Satyam was talking about earlier, right? As you think about partnerships, the end objective of what you're trying to do is very important. In the two cases that he spoke about, there was a very clear thought process that this is the data that Thomson Reuters has, this is the data that pharma company has, which they are sharing, and they want to get something out of it as well. Eventually, either as a mention in the report or the paper that you published, or an insight that they can leverage for their business. So linking it to that objective is very, very important. That's first. Now that objective can be at two levels. A more short-term objective where I maybe collaborate and focus on creating a program that enables me to augment my supply funnel for people that I can then employ, going back to the first point that we started with. That could be a short-term objective, but longer term, are you trying to do research in a new area that your clients or your stakeholders are not asking for but is important? For example, how do you apply AI to the field of medical diagnostics or medical surgery and a lot of those? These are topics that are out there but need to be addressed and need time to mature and come to a stage where they can get implemented in industry. So that could be a much longer term objective that you're thinking about. But those three things are important. Have a clear objective, define that as a short term and a long term, so that each stakeholder is getting something out of that in that period and stays interested with those outcomes that are coming.
So adding to what Bhaskar said, we have, so the biggest challenge which we have faced, which specifically I have faced in sharing data, that was that I don't get the approval from these departments, and they say, I mean, you're sharing the data, that's a competitive advantage for us. So I did solve something around it, signing up an NDA with the college especially, or setting up a VMware and gave the laptops, okay, you log into our VMware, you cannot take anything out of it. You can do whatever you want on the VMware. So this was some of the challenges solved, but there was again a cost involved. And sometimes we shared laptops as well. We did not get them back in the right shape as well. It happened. So, I mean, we found out these are challenges which still I don't have a very clear solution. And we don't know, sometimes we are not able to analyze the ROI of the project. So if you're not able to analyze, setting up a VM is a cost. So initially we can start with research, that's what we've done in the past. But this still stands as a challenge, sharing data, which is very easier, which Satyam was talking about when I was in US. With the academic collaboration, it was very easy because the laws are very strong. India, the cyber laws still are in shape of getting there. There it is already there. So it was very easy, sign up an NDA, give the data, get the problem solved. Right now, the workaround I have is I share the data, but I look for a very generalistic solution which I can apply specific with little modifications. So this was the biggest challenge, setting up then again, which we've already talked about, defining the scope from both sides. Because when I give the problem, it's with me, I see it as orange. But when I've given to you, it has gone farther away. It has become lemon for me, but it might be a watermelon for you. So what you start seeing, you might, in the process, there might be a time where the scope of the problem would change, and those should be communicated on time. So, and then when I said time, then finding the time with us, with the people in the industry working, and as well as both coming together, setting up regular intervals, defining the scope of the project and defining the SLAs in a professional way. But last but not the least, as Megha also talked about, depth, which is there in the academy. I don't know exactly how much depth, especially one college versus the other college has. There are some of the projects the other college would have delivered well. So I think so on every college website, there has to be a section where they can bring about what projects they've done. Do it professionally, because now if you want to take it, it should not be just a study, exam pass nahi karna hai. At the end of the day, we don't have to pass an exam. We don't have to study that in that way. It has to be a professional thing. So we need to publish whatever we have accomplished on the website, so that if I am reading it, I say, okay, Shiv Nadar, there has been a lot of projects done on the content personalization or the app personalization. Okay, I am thinking about a futuristic project around this. Let me go and talk to them. That's how things will start. So I want to see more and more information and publish a newsletter and send it across. So you would have mail from now you have my mail, Megha's mail, and similarly a lot of people would be coming to this institute. Just send across those newsletters where what research you are doing, what is the stuff. If something relatable I will immediately approach. So that will kickstart things in a much faster way than we seminars and webinar does help, but this will help us, because as at industry at my level, if I'm looking at things which are already there and some of the work has been done for some other company also, I can reach out and approach that, okay, can you do this for me? So that's one way to solve that challenge.
Thanks Bhaskar and Deependra. Finally, I would like to invite all participants to share concluding remarks. We are almost at the end of the discussion. We are almost out of time. Also, I want you all to share any additional thoughts, insights that you would like to share that we haven't discussed in this discussion so far. We'll go with this in the same order, starting with Megha, Satyam, Bhaskar and Deependra.
I think a lot has already been talked about the need for industry-academia collaboration, but as an ecosystem, we need to move fast and we need to achieve certain things. In my viewpoint, I very strongly believe that what can be measured can be achieved, right? And breaking down of your larger problems into sub-problems. The way we look at it classically in the industry is people process technology. And I think the same should be applicable when we are designing these products and platforms of engagement between industry and academia. So when we talk about people, we need committed individuals from both sides who can speak each other's language and can move fast in creating certain programs, cutting across and cutting through the bureaucracy that exists in systems on both ends, which is very important. The second thing is when we talk about processes, if we see that there is a model of collaboration that has worked for one university and organization, it needs to be shared across the ecosystem for the larger interest of everyone. Holding on to your talent, holding on to your information is not going to help you in the long run at all. Therefore, that dissemination is important. We have to work together as an ecosystem. And the third, when it comes to technology, and I think primarily if we're talking about analytics, data is very, very important. We definitely need to come together, understand, and work at how we can make data available to academia, yet not disclosing information from a business standpoint that doesn't have to be done. And for that, there is, I think, a real brainstorming that is required because that's a fundamental problem to be solved. And government policies and the regulations within which we work also have to come forward and support us in that initiative. So these are definitely the three things that we need to do. Attaching metrics to all of these three things. Now these metrics could both be quantitative and qualitative because like Pascal mentioned earlier, you are not only solving for problems of today, but you have to take a bigger vision of solving problems for tomorrow. You might not get the intended ROI today, but are you looking at a 5-year horizon? Are you looking at a horizon bigger than that? And are patient enough to wait as an organization to really leap forward? So these are definitely some of the things we need to take into consideration and move fast.
Thanks, Michael. Satyam.
I mean, excellent points from all the three of them. And I think there is hope among the academicians like me. So when do I have the data then to all the three of yeah. But jokes about it, it was quite enlightening. And I didn't know actually the laws you were talking about, that it's actually quite easy in like United States. So I hope things get sorted out in India quite soon so that we can actually work with the Indian data sets, which is like huge, and we haven't really explored that a lot. So I'm trying to look forward to this whole thing.
Thanks, Satyam.
I'll just reiterate those 3 points that I mentioned, right? Understand the stakeholders involved, have a clear objective, and as Megha said, measure and figure out a way of collaborating. Once you get these together, things will happen.
And I would say, apart from all 4 of us have already talked about a lot of things, but put something at stake for both. It should not be free, which generally in past with my organization, budget was not allocated. Still, I went to the college and they said, we want a project, okay, we are ready. But put something at stake. If something at stake from my company side, they will ensure that I am free for that project, at least a day or an hour is marked every week free on my calendar. And they will support it. If nothing is at stake. So I'm also a proponent of the fact that the internship should not be free ever. So I started with that. So in my last organization we did that, and similarly project should not be at free, and there should be at stake from the academia side. Their reputation should also be at stake, like the money at stake with us. So then things will eventually happen, because if we put something there, we will work together to achieve something out of it.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the discussion. I want to thank all the panelists for their very insightful as well as actionable insights that they have shared as a part of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, panel. And I request you all to remain on the stage for a group photograph. and we would like to present memento as a token of appreciation. I request Mr. Arun Gupta to please come up to the stage for the photograph and presentation of the memento. I request the photographers for the group photograph. I request the photographers for the group photograph, please. I request Arun sir to please present a memento to Mr. Bhaskar Roy. You're getting the memento. I request Arun sir to please present the memento to Mr. Dipendra. I request sir to please present the memento to Ms. Megha. Thank you, panel members, for this insightful session. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now call on the stage the eminent panelists of our next panel discussion. The theme of our panel is Career Management in the Era of Analytics and Data Explosion. I would like to welcome Mr. Rishabh Parashar, who will be the moderator for this panel. Mr. Rishabh is the head of digital and performance marketing at Orient Electric with 6+ years of experience in building and executing digital marketing strategies, campaigns, and solutions at leading organizations. Boasts a track record of increasing business revenue multifold through digital campaigns across domains like e-commerce, consultancies, edtech. Please welcome him with a round of applause. I would like to welcome our next panelist, Mr. Rahul Goswami, who is the Deputy General Manager and Head of Deal Acceleration Program at HCL Tech, a seasoned business professional with a keen interest in sales excellence and business marketing. Mr. Rahul has extensive exposure to consulting, sales advisory, and solution marketing, with a clear focus towards creating value and incremental growth for the organization through data-driven marketing programs. Mr. Rahul has worked extensively in IT industry across delivery, pre-sales, solutions marketing, and sales excellence, functions to deliver customer projects and contribute extensively in business development activities. He is also an avid writer and likes to write columns and articles for various media publications in sales effectiveness, technology, and business marketing. Additionally, he is a member of Academy of American Poets and loves to explore his poetic writings to drive creative transformations in his works. So in case any of you gets bored, you can, from my speech, you may please ask him to recite some of his lines. We welcome you, sir. Our next panelist is Ms. Ruchi Babbar. She is the Head of Sales Analytics at Pernod Ricard. She is an alumnus of Times School of Marketing, Delhi. She has post-graduation in AI from the University of Texas. Having experience spanning over 20 years, She has contributed significantly in the field of data analytics, strategy design, and reporting operations for Fortune 100 organizations ranging from financial services, FMCG to media. Ms. Ruchi has an extensive track record of stakeholder engagement and strategic partner management in global startups and has expertise in managing and developing high-performance international teams. We welcome you, ma'am. I would like to introduce our next panel member, Mr. Vishesh Kangal. He is the Head Analytics Solutions and Consulting at WNS Global Services, an IIT Kharagpur alumni. Vishesh has more than 2 decades of experience in the field of data and analytics. He has spent a large part of his career with consulting firms like Accenture and PwC, advising clients in the journey to become a data-driven organizations. At WNS, Vishesh is the Global Head of Analytics Solutions and Consulting. An analytics enthusiast, he is passionate about marketing analytics, a key differentiator for the organizations. Please welcome him with a round of applause. Over to you, Rishabh, sir.
Okay, hi everyone. So, since the football fever is on, so I'll start with this time stipulation thing. There's a yellow card that's been allotted that I'll be given after 5 minutes. So we have to be within that stipulated time. Now coming to the part career management in the era of analytics and data. So there's this famous quote where there's data smoke, there's business fire. And this is something that is being explored extensively in today's time and age. Every business is using data in various fields. In the field that I currently working, I lead a team of product managers and performance marketers. So from managing the insights that we generate on the product side, to managing, to generating, to understanding the predictive analytics, to the forecasting that we need to do to sell that product out there in the market. So now I just start with the question part. So my question to Alka, to you first. So Ruchi, so who is the right person according to you who should actually go and make a career in this field?
Yeah, that's a $1 million question actually, because a lot of us when we started off our careers were very new to this concept of data. I remember I started on my journey with the media. And one of the things that I thought, that why should I join the business analytics, business intelligence team of Times of India was impact, right? So I would say anybody who has the passion to be close to the business, make a difference to the business, either in terms of growing revenues, profitabilities, efficiencies, should get into data and data analytics. So data analytics, I mean, they're veterans here and it's not about algorithms or number crunching. It is about making a difference to business, right? How can you make your business more impactful? So I think anybody who has a passion to do that with the help of numbers should get into data analytics. I mean, that's been my mantra all throughout.
Great, Ruchi. So as we all know, Raoji, so not everyone is made out of the same cloth, right? So everyone has their own passions. We have been told since childhood that we should, according to our passion and aptitude, should choose our own field. What, according to you, do you think who's the right fit for this and who should actually get into this career orientation?
Yeah, thanks, Rishabh. I think this is a very valid question in today's times. And I would actually like to state that data analytics as a field is not a very old field, okay, in the industry ecosystem. In the last 10-15 years is what I have seen the explosion, okay, of data getting generated from whether it is the end consumers or whether it is the researchers or whether it is the industry stakeholders. So, so this field is quite new, okay, and people who are best suited to this kind of a field are the people who can understand number one technology, okay, who can understand how the data would impact or bring outcomes, okay, for the end consumers, okay. So, so see, everybody can learn technology, everybody can learn the tools, but how the application of those tools should be kind of brought into picture, how the understanding of the various data that is available in the system, whether, let's say for example, if somebody is doing online shopping, so how the behavior of the end consumer, okay, is being captured, is being understood. So that that mindset, okay, towards seeing the picture at a larger level and how the end impact is being seen. So people who can actually analyze from that standpoint, I think those would be the right fit to make a career in data and analytics. Tools everybody can learn, technology everybody can learn, but the application of those technologies and tools is the core, I would say.
Superb, wonderful. So since we started with this FIFA World Cup theme, there's this interesting article that I was reading before the World Cup started, which is the teams that would go on to play the semi-finals and finals. And you would be surprised to know that out of all those predictions, I think 2 predictions have come right, which is Argentina and France. They are now playing the finals, except for Brazil. And the kind of explosion that we are seeing in this field of sport analytics, sport coaching, and the VAR, since the invent of VAR has come into this football theme, data is exploding like anything. So my question to Visheshji would be, what do you think would be the right career fitment, the goal planning, and the fulfillment of goals for people who are planning a career in data?
Right, thank you, Rishabh. And as you rightly said, this is an era where the data is exploding. If you look at the way the whole IT and the computers has come, there was a time when everybody was trying to put the ERPs in place, and there were applications and web, and now is the time when everything is generating data, and that has to be analyzed, right? So while others said it is also about having those basic engineering skills, but I think it is more about having a knack for dealing with the data. In terms of your career, you could have your basic skills in data analytics. It could be programming, it could be data, but more and the most important thing, and that's what all the panel members are also saying, is to have a domain understanding. What am I trying to apply that for? If you look at the today's world, everything, some of the non-traditional industries which were not very data intensive, right? So medical, biomedical engineering, the whole microbiome studies, which is told to be the next medical nirvana, is all based on statistics. It's all based on data, right? So start with your basic data and analytics skills, build that domain expertise, and then in terms of your career, if you look at most of the organizations today, this is not a discretionary spend. Most of the CIOs of the organization have a position today, what they call as a chief data officer or a chief data analytics officer. So that's something which is going to stay. So in terms of your career options, it's across the industries, and it's not only that you will only reach a mid-level data analyst kind of a role, but you can actually reach the C-suite today with these kind of skills.
Okay, just continuing on the same question. Recently, so we are solving this problem of D2C, in which e-commerce is playing a very important role. So we are working with McKinsey on that project. So one of the things that is coming out in all the hirings is the use of data. So even for the warehouse manager to the person who is a business analyst, there's a requirement that the person has to understand the data, generate insights, and marry it with the business needs. So just wanted to understand from you, let's say someone is not that familiar with data, is not that much interested in generating insights from them. How can they transition into this same field?
Sure, as I said, right, the domain is something that is going to take you places, right? When you're starting your career, of course, your data analytics tools and how to manage your data, how to do the data crunching is very important. But eventually, you're solving the industry problems, right? You said you're doing a marketing project with McKinsey. Now, understanding consumer behavior is not about your data science or anything else. Understanding consumer behavior is about forming the hypothesis. You will be able to form hypothesis when you have the right domain knowledge, right? If I were to apply, for example, let's say in the healthcare industry, do you really understand the patient care and the care management space? Now, you necessarily need not be a person who is a hardcore technology person, but what you need to definitely have is your industry knowledge. You need to be good in your domain, and then you will definitely find people who can, help you chart that course towards applying the data analytics principles to that particular industry problem.
Superb, superb. My next question, Ruchi, would be slightly off the topic to you. It's to understand, so recently one of my ex-boss went to this conference in Davos. So there's great interest building up regarding the way the times are changing when it comes to climate, when it comes to sustainability, and so when it comes to the wealth that we understand in today's time. So, understanding from you how actually a person can use data for going into these, actually building a future with sustainability, and from the first moment onwards, once they pass out of the colleges and get into this field, to actually start contributing towards a better planet as well.
So before I answer the question, I just like to add on the career paths that Vishesh spoke about. One of the career paths obviously is getting into the C-level chief data analytics, chief information officers, which is the decision making, right? You have the seat at the table and you're taking a decision. The other track where I feel a lot of technical aspect comes in becoming cutting edge data scientists, right? Which is connecting the dots, looking at number crunching. I think that career field in itself is a very specific, specialized career field, but that goes right at the top. Yeah? So in decision making, a lot of chief data scientists are there who are taking those calls in very complex industries like financial services or medical. The third level, which I found interesting, in my career journey, I've seen that a lot of people who have started from data analytics actually end up getting into business. And that's where the impact is the maximum. And I remember in one of my career journeys, I actually did a business stint and got all the domain knowledge and came back into data analytics. So that is happening a lot. So data analytics doesn't mean that you have to grow only in data analytics as a vertical, but actually it broadens your horizon because you've got so much information, so much understanding about numbers, connecting the dots, curiosity, that you are able to define your business decisions very clearly. So I think these three tracks are coming very prominent into everybody's minds. I just wanted to add to that point. Coming Shiv, to the question on sustainability, I think sustainability is becoming the core for every organization's values, right? And somebody who gets into sustainability and how we can contribute is looking at how efficiencies can be improved, right? How can you reduce the carbon footprint at various stages, be it supply chain, be it your freight optimization, be it looking at, in Pernod, we are actually getting into a mode where we've removed monocartons, right? It's a big decision. So the amount of carbon footprint that we're going to reduce is phenomenal. And there is data analytics behind it, right? There is data analytics in terms of emissions or even your loadability of trucks, looking at supply chain efficiencies, how many trucks are needed to transfer, in supply chain demand planning processes. It's completely data driven. So there are many such examples where you are getting into contributing to sustainability in a bigger way, understanding consumer behavior. Like I said, removing your monocartons, we wanted to understand how the consumer is responding, right? Very important area. And there's your conjoints and your pricing, all of those decisions are then based on that, right? So you've closely integrated to all of these very strategic decisions on sustainability. And I'm quoting examples from my industry, and other leaders can quote examples, but I think it's an integral part of all the value system of most companies. And I think just some of the examples I could think of, maybe others can join.
Yeah, no, sure. ESG reporting is one of the fastest upcoming field in the field of data and analytics, right? Every company by regulations, and regulations are getting tighter every year. They have to report on their carbon footprint, what are the improvements that they're taking, what are the optimizations that they have to do. So, and I don't know how much of you guys notice in the market, but some of the very new data providers are actually companies which are providing you ESG data, right? So all my direct procurement or my indirect procurement, what is the impact of the carbon footprint on the suppliers from whom I'm sourcing. So it's not only about what carbon footprint I have, but what is the carbon footprint along the chain that I'm trying to impact. And companies are getting very, very conscious about that. Not only because of the regulation, but environment is something that everybody is thinking about. So yes, a very upcoming field, and I think next decade or so is all about environment.
Maybe I would also like to build upon what Vishesh and Ruchi has just said. See, what we are also witnessing in the industry is, apart from the roles like Chief Digital Officer of or the CIOs, CTOs, we are also finding a formation of core experience officers. Okay, and the people who are heading those experience officers are called Chief Experience Officers. Okay, who are playing a very important role in acting as ears, okay, for the end consumers. So with this digital proliferation, okay, everybody has got technology on their fingertips where they can just write about your product, about your services. They can share their views, okay, they can share their feedback online. Okay, so how the end consumer actually is seeing you as an entity, okay, how the end consumer is seeing you as the right fit, okay, in the industry, that's something the chief experience officers are actually are listening to. And that's why, and that's how basically, rather than being inside out, the more innovation is being driven through a mechanism of outside in. What the end consumers are thinking about you, those information are being shared internally, okay, and then your solutions, your services, your technologies, okay, for the end consumers are being redesigned. Okay, so this redesigning of new technologies, redesigning of tools, solutions, those are also getting aligned towards sustainable consumerism, because people like so the young generation, okay, so they are looking at things how long lasting a product can be. If somebody is buying, let's say, apparel in the retail store, okay, so questions are being asked that what would be the durability, okay, of this apparel, of this t-shirt or pant. Okay, so what are the manufacturing processes that are being kind of built, okay, in bringing the retail, in bringing the apparel in the store. So all these questions are what the young generation is asking, and that's how these insights, okay, are coming inside the organization through the chief experience officers, and are being passed through to the CIOs and CTO organization. So that's the shift we are seeing, that your solution, your product, your services should be close to what consumers are demanding for. So yeah.
No, I agree. So just adding on to the point that Vishesh just mentioned, there's a Bloomberg index on the ESG part. So wherein my company recently got listed, and there's an international funding that is being done on those bases. So why I'm mentioning this, this is an rising and upcoming opportunity for the young professionals out there to be aware about what ESG is and how data is helping organizations to become ESG sensitive. The other part, Ruchi, on the same part, how data helped me in one of my problems. So everyone is aware there's a regulation in Delhi from 11 to 4 is the only time in which you can have the trucks come into the city, diesel trucks, right? So Delhi being a major center for business, so my e-commerce, like we were just having a brainstorming session, यार धंधा नहीं आ रहा, तो हमें धंधा कैसे बढ़ाना है? So we just found a tweak, like how much was it impacting our business. One of my data analyst guys said, like based on the numbers, that if we start using the electrical trucks, we can have it move around the city all during the day, and there is no stipulation around that. So this is where we are making a transformation using data, and this is just one of the examples. So now coming on to this question for the young professionals out there, like what are the opportunities that are available in today's time, Rahulji, according to you? And like how can actually young professionals tap into that, the relevant ways which we can use in our day-to-day lives to start tapping into those?
See, I think the first step definitely is having the right mindset, okay, and that passion from within. That if I have to even if I don't know anything, okay, I'm just fresher out of the college, that passion has to be within the student, that data is something I want to love. Okay, and if you talk about any industry, whether it is life science, healthcare, retail, CPG, telecom, media, entertainment, high tech, the footprints of the consumers, both digitally and in real-time basis, you will have access to. Okay, so how you can actually understand those footprints, how you can actually, or you want to understand those footprints is very important. Okay, so for example, as I just talked about the experience. Okay, so the shift what I'm seeing in the organizations and for example in my own organization as well. Okay, so people are actually listening to those business functions or roles who can provide you outside in view. Okay, and then with that help you can tweak, okay, or you can customize your services or solutions for the end consumer. So I think that passion to understand data, to learn data, and kind of having a belief that whatever data crunching I will do for my organization, that is somewhere going to impact in a positive manner for the ecosystem. So because as I said, technology everybody can learn, tools everybody can learn with sufficient time given, but the right mindset, that what contributions I will bring into the organization through data, that would impact the end consumer. So that mindset has to be kind of in the person.
Super. Ruchi, if you can highlight the same part and add on the career placements, the campus assistance, and these different things that students can avail, like how they can actually start using these things for them.
Yeah, so just to add to what the point that Rahul made, see, one of the things that this community needs to do is become change agents. What happens, and why, again, coming from what I've seen, is that a lot of change has to be driven through data analytics teams, people who are leading data analytics or people who are driving data analytics. And that only comes when A, you understand data, B, you know the right algorithm, and start with what is the problem, right? And the end destination is, which is when you can articulate the solve very clearly through the right storytelling part. So I think some of the skills and some of the roles that we need to play as a community is also about change agents, right? And that's what I think the students also need to realize, that learning is one about tools, technologies, getting close to the business. I think one of the bigger learning is forums like this, right? Community, building your own community, understanding what the problem statements are, what other industries are doing, cross-pollinating those ideas, being in those forums, connecting, having your tribe is extremely important for all of us to thrive. And we are also doing this now, right? We are learning from each other. So I think some of these aspects should start on earlier for the students, staying close to the business, learning technology, upgrading, upskilling all the time, but really looking at your tribe and understanding from each other that how did you do something fantastic in your industry, in your company, and then learn, right? So I think some of these helped me, it should help others too. Yeah.
Super. So I'll come to $1 million question, Vishesh. There's a rising inflation in today's time, and since the pandemic, everyone has become aware about finance in a big way. So what is now understanding the salary, what is that thing when a data professional can expect once they go out there in the market, and what can it look like once over a long period, over a time frame?
Okay. The reality today in the industry is we don't have professionals. Ever since we have come out of pandemic, every company is fighting for the data and analytics people. I was attending a recent webinar. It was a conference that Gartner had organized at Mumbai, and they were saying they had done some studies, and they were saying that the entire world is kind of fighting for a limited pool of people who understand this subject today. Okay, the companies the salaries have skyrocketed. I think in the last 2 years itself, if not 50 to 100% jump in typically what the analytics professionals were earning before. So where does all this end? Okay, there is, let's say, 100 people. Everybody trying to go for those 100 people. There are 200 companies. Everybody is increasing the salaries, but beyond the point, it is not sustainable to do business. with those kind of rising salaries. So everybody comes to the academia. I think in the next 2 years, starting this year's campus placement, you would see that every organization that deals in this subject has at least, if not doubled, tripled, and even some companies 4 times. My own company has doubled the intake of the freshers in this particular field, right? So all of this will have an impact on salaries. Of course, the inflation, the standard of living, everything is rising. But right now, I think anything, I will not go into the benchmark. Every college is different, every talent is different. But at least 50% upside to what the students were earning at least a couple of years back. That and there is only an upside to that. If you're an experienced professional, next 2 to 3 years when this talent shortage remains, I think as I said, within 6 to 7 years, people are doubling their salaries, which earlier was not that the case. So yeah, it's not an easy place to be doing the business in this space today, especially a company like WNS, which employs vast majority of people. But yeah, it is an exciting space. I think it was due for IT industry in India, to move up that value chain. We have done that over a period of time, and I think now's the time to reap the benefits.
Just asking on the same lines, so there's, I think all of us are facing the problem of hiring or in the hiring stage. So now AI is helping to build you the perfect resume for yourself. So just asking, what are the things that the professional are missing in today's time, and what is it that can help me and people like me in hiring the right team members, especially from the field of data?
So you're asking me what the students should be looking at, or
the young professionals are missing. What you just said.
Okay, so I go to a lot of campuses. Okay, a large part of my role right now, dhanda to aayega, log leke aao. That's what everybody is saying. But and this is primarily for students, guys. You live in an information age. It is very important to broaden your horizon. And I'm not talking about technical knowledge. I'm trusting your professors, your own acumen, the kind of institutes that you're in today, you're learning today. I'm giving that basic quality of education is given. But broaden your horizons means what is happening in the world today? Why is inflation? What is the impact of the Russia-Ukraine war? What is China doing today? What are the policy level impacts? Because you may think, this is something beyond me. Maybe the world politicians are thinking about it. But anybody who's creating an econometric model to forecast my sales needs to be aware about these facts, right? So the one thing that I often find missing in students today is the general awareness. I'm not saying it's not a one size fits all. There are of course people who are very much aware. So be always aware what is happening in the macro, in the micro, economic world today. Very, very important if you want to be a part of any business. The second aspect is within your own field, move beyond the textbooks. Okay, I say that even 90% of the business, the problems that businesses have today, you can solve it by using an Excel. But what are some of the most upcoming tools? What are some of the most upcoming concepts? Why is it important for companies to move to a cloud environment than an on-premise environment? How is Google earning their money? How is Microsoft earning their money? What are some of the next 10 technology trends? It is extremely important to broaden your horizon, guys. If you're not in a field, you're not in a subject where you have to go deep into researching one particular problem statement. You are in a field where data from probably 100 different sources will impact your model. Your understanding of those data points and what are the correlations between those is extremely important.
I think one of my professors recently, a course that I did from Kellogg, Professor Sawning, he used to say that have a large vision and have a bigger problem to solve. So on those lines, I think this is something which is becoming the new cadence going in today's time, that actually how you are making yourself relevant in today's time and age. So now coming to the concluding session and asking your 2 cents guidance for everyone out there. Like if you can tell us like what are the real steps we can do and what will be your message for the students going forward. So starting with you, Rishi.
Okay, so my 2 cents is understand the why you're taking up a particular problem statement or why you're building an algorithm. Basically, understand the business problem. I think that's extremely important. Link it to the ROI. Have a metric associated to why you're doing that activity. So the tangibles have to come very, very clearly in anybody who gets into data analytics. Second, I think upskill and at various stages of your career journey, be it 2 years, 5 years, 20 years, you need to be there out there upskilling all the time. And third, I would say that build your community because you are a change agent. This community is specialized, needs to be a lot more connected. So these are the 3 things that I feel should be definitely there on the radar for anybody who gets into. And I think a curiosity mindset, like everybody said, that macro, micro, all of these elements are creating you as a holistic professional, right? So I think those are your, your fringe skills which you definitely need to build. But the 3 nuggets are these: upskill, tribe, and the impact.
Super. So my message for the young students or the stakeholders at large would be from the 3 perspectives. One is the availability, second is the ability, and third is the compensation. So when I talk about these 3 things, so from the ability standpoint, learn as much as you can. Don't restrict yourself to a single field of application, single line of application. Whatever technologies, tools you may have access to, try go deep into that. Okay, look from the application standpoint at how those technologies and tools are kind of implemented in various business domains, business lines, and make yourself available. Okay, if somebody is asking for your presence in a particular project or in a particular, let's say, contribution, make yourself proactively available, because these 2 things will take you far. And the more you kind of nurture yourself by making yourself stronger in availability and ability, compensation will come behind you. So they say, right, that don't chase money, let money chase you. So if you can make yourself strongly available, strongly able to do things proactively, the compensation would come behind you. So that's my take for the young generation.
Sure, I think I'll just repeat what the others said. But the first one, yes, I think all of the students, be happy. You are passing on at a time when you won't have to worry about any of your career, as long as you are related to data at some point in time. And second is, again, a rhetoric. You would have heard from your parents, their parents would have said the same thing. There is no shortcut to success. Majority of the data scientists here, however eminent they may be, they are spending 70 to 80% of their time to make their sense of data, cleaning the data. It's not there, right? It's not about just writing or dealing with the most sophisticated neural network algorithm today. It's not about that. That's the 5%, 10% of the work that industry does. But that perseverance and an ability to learn that 80% of the bad work is something that will make a difference. So that's the only 2 things that I will say. Thank you.
Wonderful. One of my mentors rightly used to say that the answer is very simple, but the questions that makes you reach those answers are very complex. So my 3 nugget advice I'd say are very simple. So in my career I prepared an Excel always. What is the strategy doc? जो बड़े बड़े jargons होते हैं ना कि एक बड़ा सा strategy बनाएंगे, vision लिखेंगे, mission लिखेंगे. Just prepare an Excel, make it into a 3-column approach, and write where you are, where you want to reach. Identify those companies which you think you want to work with. Identify the gaps that you currently have and start reaching them. So start bridging that gap. It's all about building that bridge, and which is I always believe in. It's not about competing, it's about collaboration. So bridge symbolizes that. So with that thought, thank you everyone. Thank you to the esteemed panelists. And yeah, that's it from this session.
Thank you, Rishabh.
Thank you, panel members, for the insightful session. We have a gathering of very young finalists with us along with our faculty members. So if anyone would like to ask any question, we have Bikramjit Sir Jyoti at the back. He would like to ask a question.
Good morning. Very thanks to you for these wonderful insights. So I have a very simple question. When you go to campus for recruitment in this particular domain of data analytics, what challenges you face to select the students? And in your opinion, what an institution should do to mitigate those challenges?
I think I touched upon that subject, but what I'm increasingly finding today is people are boxing themselves in certain job profiles. Oh, I am a data scientist. I don't know how to write a SQL statement. Okay, I think my first question that I would ask any of my prospect candidates is, do you know what is an inner join and an outer join and a self join? Because if you're not able to apply that, I don't know what you will do in the data analytics space. So many a times the answer that I get from students, oh, I don't do data. I'm a data scientist. Okay. So again, as I said, holistically, if I were to look at it, all I want from the candidates is some basic level of expertise in the subjects that they are studying. They should understand what is data, what is the data warehouse. They should be what is the basic difference between that. I think as long as those are there, the rest the industry can definitely be. Every organization has training programs. They would be able to bring them up to a point where they will be employable. So yeah, I think it's very, very important.
My answer would be on the same 2 points that I just kind of conveyed or expressed on the availability and ability. Right. So what I have faced in some of the scenarios, if there are certain job profiles that are being offered, and you are quite young, right? You are just getting out of the college. You are so fresher. So be open to learning new things. Okay. Don't as Vishesh said that people are getting themselves boxed. So don't do that. I mean, it's about your availability to whatever opportunities are being offered to you, because you are starting from scratch. And when you get into the industry, when you get into the organizations, there's a concept called unlearning. So whatever you learn, okay, so the organization, the industry will make you unlearn, because the practicality of the organizations or industry is different from the academic standpoint or what you want to say. But it's about your availability, your openness to learn new things, and kind of be flexible towards agreeing to all kind of projects, all kind of opportunities that you can have access to. That's my take.
I just add to one point. See, one of the things that I find is, if students can be more self-aware of what they want to do they want to get into data analytics or some other field? I think if there are internal ways to assess their competencies, and we do that at various stages where there's a 360-degree assessment of us as leaders, or when we are mid-level managers. But if that activity can happen at the grassroots level where they're getting into the careers, to assess their competencies and aptitudes, and then help them take a decision: will sales excite me more, or marketing excite me more, or do I have the passion or the skill for data analytics? I think sometimes that self-awareness is missing, and I found very good talent but not fit for probably number crunching or getting into data analytics, but they're very good in some other fields. So it becomes very difficult to tell them that, hey, you've got the right aptitude but for another field. So that self-awareness part is something that I think academia should focus on through some tools.
I think just one last aspect, and this is very tactical, okay, so that as a bit of a feedback to the academia, to the faculty. See, when you look at a fresher's resume, a student's resume, there is not much to look into that, to be honest, right? They all have done similar courses because it's part of their curriculum. Probably what would differentiate them is some of the internship projects that they would have done, or some of the interdepartmental projects, or some of the competitions in which they would have solved certain problems. Okay, now again, I don't think as an expectation the industry wants everybody to be ready and they would have done at least four different projects. But as a faculty, my request to you is, once your kids come back from such internships, ask them, what did you do? Why did you use a method A versus a method B? What was the objective? Was there a better way of achieving that same thing? That is all we ask in the interviews, right? So what have you done? And what was the reason? I mean, and more importantly, at least I'm trying to assess whether he has really done that or not, right? Because it's easy to write on a resume. So this is more at a tactical level. But guys, please understand, whatever problem we are solving, the person is just interested to know how have you solved that. It's not about how sophisticated an algorithm you use, but why did you use what you did. So yeah.
Just adding on to this point, so during my early days, I was holding multiple offer letters at one point of time, and so it's not a campus recruitment directly, but just connecting it dots here. So I went to a founder, so that was in the early stages at that point of time. Today it's a multi-billion-dollar organization. And looking at the resume, looking at the way I talk, looking at the way I presented things, he said, Rishabh, I'll give you the job. Okay, he was more like he started, उसने वो last sentence था जो English का बोला, और he said, देसी भाषा में मुझे ये बता, तू चाहता क्यों है ये? क्यों चाहता है? Let's talk to me. I'm not taking your interview. Discuss things with me. And I understood from that point of, I think that was one of the biggest learnings, to start building that purpose, sense of purpose within the students. Why do they want things? And I know it's more on the philosophical lines. There are many dimensions that starts opening to it, but the starting stage happens in the earlier stages of the career. Because career जैसे ही बढ़ता जाता है उसके बाद तो you always have a chance, excuses, I'm married, there are number of things attached to me. But to build in that sense of purpose in the early stage, I think that would be way helpful in the coming age. And I think more and more number of organizations will start moving towards that why and sense of purpose.
And that's why unlearning is more easy at the young age than the older age when you go up in the ladder. So.
Thank you, panel members. Now I request you to please remain on the stage for a group photograph. I request Arun sir to please come up on the stage for the photograph and the presentation of mementos. Photographer to please click the group photograph. I request Sir, Arun sir, to please present the memento to Mr. Rahul. I request Arun sir to please present the memento to Mr. Rishabh. I request sir to please present the memento to Ms. Ruchi, and can we please have a round of applause when the panel members are awarded their mementos. I request Sir to please present the memento to Mr. Vishesh. A round of applause, please, while the memento is being presented. Thank you, panel members. After such perceptive sessions, we now take a tea break before commencing for the next panel of the day. And you are requested to kindly gather back here at 12:20 p.m. The tea is being served at the multi-purpose hall. Thank you. Members for our next panel titled The Future of Data Science and Analytics Industry. Please welcome with me the moderator of the session, Mr. Shrikant Menon. He is the Vice President and Global Leader Genpact. He heads the AI/ML practice for Genpact Analytics, and drives global AI/ML projects delivery. He brings over 2 decades of innovation and industry expertise to his role, leading strategy, business transformation, product development, and delivering high-end analytical solutions. Mr. Shrikant has incubated and launched over 50 advanced analytic solutions in the global market. He has worked closely with Fortune 500 companies to drive impact on their business by enabling innovative AI-led solutions and practices. His primary focus is competency building in AI ecosystems such as machine learning, NLP, text mining, computer vision, and nurturing new capabilities. In addition, he develops, mentors, and guides a global team to deliver complex AI/ML models and capabilities at scale while promoting engagement and employee growth. Sir, please join me on stage, and I request everyone to please welcome him with a round of applause. Our next panelist is Mr. Rajat Mathur. He is partner Boston Consulting Group, over 17 years of experience in strategy consulting, business transformation using AI and digital, and leadership, and holds MBA from IIM Bangalore. During his tenure, he has worked for Fortune 500 clients across consumer goods, entertainment and media, financial services, FMCG, healthcare, insurance, retail, and telecom, and has delivered transformative value to clients. He has led engagements on business transformation, growth strategy, revenue maximization, customer acquisition, and value management and cost reduction driven by data science, ML, AI. He has managed multiple clients, multiple management consulting engagement of up to 5 million for clients in India, UK, and North America. Mr. Rajat has provided thought leadership and mentoring support to set up and grow consulting practices across firms. He has played an instrumental role in incubating strategic data science AI consulting practices across top-tier consulting firms. He engaged with CXO level client members for business development and engagement delivery, and has played a pivotal role in recruitment, training, and building the financial brand. Please welcome Mr. Rajat with a round of applause. Our next panel member for the session is Ms. Mamta Agarwal. Ms. Mamta Agarwal Rajnaik is the VP, head of IDA, American Express. A mathematician by heart, she comes with 15 years of experience. She heads IDA, which is an enterprise-wide AI/ML platform at American Express. Analytics India magazine featured Ms. Mamta on the 40 under 40 data scientist 2022 list. She was also a part of the top 11 women in AI leadership 2020. She has several patents, offerings, and research papers in her name. Please welcome Ms. Mamta with a round of applause. Our next panelist is Mr. Saurabh Rai. He is Global Head Analytics, AI, and Geospatial Initiatives Tech Mahindra, an industry-recognized professional and a thought leader in geospatial technology, process initiatives, data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, user experience, data-driven businesses, and consumer insights. He possesses strong entrepreneurial, digital, analytical, and cross-industry skills and has led some of the largest geospatial surveys and systems deployment across the globe. The projects have won multiple awards, including the first Edison Award in India. A career built on a passion for startups and innovation, he has incubated greenfield businesses, set up practices, and seen them through growth. Mr. Saurabh is passionate about artificial intelligence, machine learning, and related technologies in solving problems and bringing automation and efficiency to complex workflows. Please welcome Mr. Saurabh Rai. Now over to Mr. Shrikant.
Thank you. Thank you, Preeti, for the warm introduction. Truly humbled and privileged to be on this stage, and thank you, Varun Jagannath and Shiv University for this opportunity. The topic is future of data science and analytics industry. So, if I just look back 25 years ago, the analytics industry then was the market research industry in India. We had very few people, few companies used to do analysis, right? And we had data stored in DBase for, we used to use Fortran for doing t tests and doing random sampling tests. And 20 years fast forward, data is in S3 to blob to you name it. I mean, you have too much of technology available. The model is in it could be HBaker to SAS to RapidMiner to so on and so forth. And code we used to keep it in our D folders or D drives, and today GitHub has taken over even the analytics industry. So 20 years back, could someone have predicted this? I don't think so. So collectively, between Saurabh, Rajat, and Mamta, we'll try our best to see what the future unfolds. And a study says by 2026 there will be 11 million jobs in data science. And what that means to the industry is what we will look at. I'll maybe start with Rajat. What makes data science and analytics the future, and why? And we are at a tipping point where NLP is transforming through GPT-3 and GPT-4s and language models. All that. 2 years back, would we have predicted a GPT-3 going to make such a sound? I don't think so. Right? So with that, what do you think the future is going to be, and what kind of use cases do you see, especially in your consulting world, from your clients' experience?
Sure. So thank you everyone for having me on the panel. See, by the way, that sounds quite nostalgic, like those. Even I used to work having my codes in D drive, and now migration to GitHub. But see, if you look at this overall technology of AI, data science, ML, see, I fundamentally believe that as long as we are addressing a problem, as long as there is value being created, there will always be a future for this kind of a technology. So, in my view, yes, there is a big future. And secondly, it's human that we look for those things which actually aid our decision making, that helps us in some or the other form to ease our job, to increase efficiency, or something which eventually helps or bring intelligence in the work that we do. And hence, this is the technology which adds to this kind of an intelligence. You name it, anything, be it your work, whatever you do, be it your any use case of a simple churn model, recommendation engine, whatever you talk about, that intelligence is helping the end user to drive a better decision. So as long as there is a value, as long as you're solving a problem, and as long as you're assisting a human in an intelligent way, this technology will always be relevant and will be the technology for future. I think over a period we have evolved. I mean, in terms of the use cases, if we talk about, I think from very traditional use cases of, let's say in a marketing about, let's say, customer churn, pricing, or in operations about supply chain, I think we have evolved in defining or redefining these use cases. And I see that use cases, if I can group it into 3 buckets there. So one use case which I think they exist right now, they just get augmented or become better in the future. And the second one, they are there in I would say, a proof of concept-ish kind of a thing. And third would be, let's say, the art of possible. We will see what it comes in the future. So the first one, I think, we should not look only data science in a single dimension. It's the amalgamation of the technologies, be it your 5G, your Internet of Things, that will come together and make the value matters. So for example, each of you receive some kind of personalization, be it your Netflix, or a lot of the banks are actually trying up these kind of hyper-personalization. With evolution of 5G, I think this people can actually have more curated content. Even more contextual hyper-personalization is something which we are looking for with the combination of technologies that we are talking about this. In the next thing, I would say the next bucket in that I would say that people, I would say things which have been in proof of concept-ish kind of a thing or yet to take off, I would say. May sound a little unreal, but something which is called as, let's say, integrated strategy machine. There are proof of concepts which are available there. So the question people are asking that, okay, do I really need a set of human beings or consultants like these to come and create a thorough strategy and of course execute that? The answer that has been actually being evolved and debated out. So there are proof of concepts which have actually come up saying that yes, we can actually do a slightly more fuzzy job now. Previously what happened that, okay, there is a problem of churn, there is a problem of pricing, okay, we solve it there. But now there are problem statements become a bit more fuzzy. So the future of use cases would be on this dimension as well. The next things that will come up is, I don't stick only to these use cases, but there's another use case of a data as a business. Like the famous example of John Deere have actually graduated from being a manufacturing company to a data company. So that's another set of use case which we will see in near future that will be coming where organizations transform themselves from their core business to becoming a data business there. And the third is actually open for imagination. I don't know in the future of use cases where will it and how will it fit, but it could be like talk about GPT or talk about various other things. You never know, like let's say, I'm just cooking it up right now, that maybe in the language, there are real-time language translations as we speak in our mobile phones. We don't know, we don't need those translators that are available right now to do all this. So these are like, they have to be imagined, like after 5 years or 6 years, how things would be. But surely in near terms, these two buckets, first two buckets would, I would say, becoming more real and real on this.
So, picking from that thought, Mamta, you see in the last couple of years, there's a lot of low-code, no-code platforms, Google's AutoML, Microsoft's AutoML, Data Robo's AutoML, all of them start coming. So how do you see the roles changing in the industry? Are these tools helping the industry? And how do you see the roles changing, especially you being in MX and doing the AI products? From a product standpoint, how do you see that?
Thank you so much, Shiv, first of all, for asking me this question, given, I've very recently, about 8 months back, took this role of AIML product and platform owner at MX. This is my favorite question, by the way. This is what I try to, tell my leadership that how important it is, and, this is what I think we as an organization has taken a very strong bet on. So within our organization, we have this platform. And this platform is not new, right? I mean, we started building this platform for last 6-7 years when nobody even thought about it. Even AWS, Azure, GCP, all of them were very new into this when we at MX were doing it ourselves. And that's why, it is something that I'm not even imagining, but it is something that I'm seeing day in, day out. Low code, no code is, going to be a reality in future for each and every organization, as we see, right? I mean, today if you see any data scientist, the percentage of work that they do and the percentage of work that gets deployed into the production environment, I don't know, how many of us have know, but that percentage is not more than 10%. So basically, 90% of all the work as a data scientist, whatever I do, would actually go down the drain just to wow some of my leadership, but it will never make it to production. And that's where the platforms like Azure, GCP, AWS, IDA come into the picture, right? We are the people who are helping data scientists know that if they build something really cool, and if it has some value that they have proven, then how do we take it, scale it, do it in a way that a traditional data scientist do not really need to bother about the code optimization. They don't really need to bother about, what are those MLOps jobs, what are those, testings and things like that they need to do. So how do we automate all of this for them, save time for them, and ensure that it is, we basically work towards making the process from develop to deploy seamless and as fast as possible. And that's going to be, I think, the scenario in the entire industry in next 5 years is what I see. I mean, at present, I think very few organizations are doing it, but that's going to be the case, throughout. And this is something which will have to happen, right? Because we have heard people saying, and I think before Mukesh Ambani said it, that data is the new oil. I was working at Dunnhumby in 2008, 2010, and even before when I had joined Dunnhumby, the chief analytical officer, who was the co-founder, Clive Humby, he mentioned it way back in 2006 that data is the new oil. Right? This is what they had a vision at that point of time. And organizations like Dunnhumby have been using data as an asset to really thrive and build their businesses. In today's world, the amount of data that we're creating every day, it's what? 2.5 million TBs every day. That's the amount of data we are producing. And these figures are not the latest ones, right? These are the figures which came in from pre-COVID time. Imagine in COVID time with the amount of e-commerce sales, with the amount of WebEx calls, with the amount of, all the video calls that we make, not only in the professional setup, but also in the personal setup, the amount of people who are uploading their pictures on social media, etc. I mean, the amount of data that we are generating, organizations are now realizing how much of value this data can add to their businesses. So, this is bound to happen because scale is what we need.
Interesting. So, Saurav, if I may come to you, when we all started our career as a data analytics professional, we were data engineers also. We used to take the data, we used to massage the data, we used to do everything, and then we also used to be the person who used to present to the client. I mean, it was a one-man show or one analytics man show. Today there are too many roles which has opened up in the analytics space. What do you see some of the future roles which is going to come? I mean, she's touched upon MLOps, which is a problem in the industry where you're not putting the models in the production and reaping in the benefits of the model. But what comes from your experience?
Sure. Thank you for asking that question. Just for the benefit of the crowd here, I am not a classical data scientist or a data guy. I am rather a total antithesis of this. I did not start my career with data, while I take pride in what I have created, what I have incubated. The good news is, when I was dealing with a lot of space tech and GIS data, now data, and maps, etc., early part of 2001-2003, today that is all called geospatial analytics. Then when I was trying to do program management for London Olympics and Mumbai Airport modernization, today all that falls somewhere in the process analytics and those kind of terms. Then when I was doing BPM process management, all that is now converging into process analytics. And then of course I was with Accenture Digital and elsewhere, and the story started of classical data scientist. So data, as you rightly said, is the new oil, but oil is a dirty and ecologically sensitive term. I would say it's the new oxygen. That's one. Or it's the real oxygen. Nothing is moving without the data. Now coming to the question at hand, how jobs are evolving. See, many a time the jobs were always there. People were collecting data, they were utilizing data, and they were giving insights. Now with new platforms, new technologies, faster models, faster computing, opportunities of doing it near real time, doing a deeper, better analysis, taking larger data sets, multiple data sets, all that have come to play. But let's say for the benefit of students to whom I guess this video will also go, one, data democratization will allow you to bring data sets from different sources. That is one rule, give it a name of whatever shape or type, that is going to continue. Everything around data plumbing, everything around replatforming is not going anywhere anytime soon. While we talk of self-serve, true self-serve with AI is still few years away. Then comes the whole models. Now people are building smart models, but what are these models doing? Somebody has to explain these models. The questions of ethical AI. So model explainability, model robustness, those are the kind of roles that people will have to do. Then I was having a great discussion earlier this morning on the quantum topic with one of our leading thought leaders in Tech Mahindra. And we were discussing the role of AI. Now the quantum is giving a totally different quantum leap in how you assess data, in how you write the new codes, to use data with quantum mechanics. So you have to unlearn and relearn a lot of what we learned until now, as was the theme in one of the earlier sessions. So that is another area. The third area, everything UX, VX, TX, total experience as I call it, or CX. Now, you need to have a better experience as a consumer, whether at an enterprise level or as a B2C level, and that will define a lot of micro and maybe a lot of personalized segmentation at any level imaginable. That is another area where role will happen. Now, again, I pick my theme from one of the previous discussion. Where is the data? Are you getting enough data sets to experiment? Maybe GDPR, all the data privacy, everything is stopping data being available. So how do you generate synthetic data? That is another area where roles will come in. And last but not the least, my favorite, the role of a storyteller will continue in data sciences. I may not be stereotypical here, but a lot of data scientists I have hired and worked with over the years, they tend to be the shy introvert types. There are very few storytellers, and you need storytellers even to bring out the best insights and take it to the business or the business heads for them to take actionable decisions. And somewhere that is where the timing and the message gets lost. So these are the new roles. We can name it data scientist, we can name it howsoever, but those are the type of skills that I would encourage teams to develop, and even I train myself every day to learn it.
Sort of, if I can stay with you, on the talk about low code, no code platforms or auto-ML, do you think that low code, no code platforms or auto-ML is going to aid the data scientist, or is it going to replace the data scientist? I mean, from a model development side.
Let's take the question a level higher. Will AI replace data scientist itself or data sciences itself? I was thinking of that question a little bit. Now, did new farming techniques replace the farmers? Probably no. We both come currently from a BPS industry. There was lots of talk that automation will replace or remove people from industry. You are growing at 40%, I am also growing almost at the same number. So we are hiring people. Just that the nature of skill sets have changed slightly. People have not yet been replaced. So, and then there are questions. How much freedom or how much ethical that AI can be? Can people trust AI? I was reading somewhere that once an AI was asked to give some sentences, prison sentences, and that AI was color biased because that's how the data was. Now, isn't it an ethical question? Will you trust it? Today, I trust it, and guys, just again, for the benefit of everybody, I run the Google Street View with Google in India. First time Google partnered with somebody outside. I'm deeply aware of the algorithms that go in. And I was frustrated at the route Google chose to bring me from my home to here. And I'm meeting some of the biggest Google leaders on 19th on the Google Day, and I'll pass that message back. Now, can you really trust an AI? My answer was, had I trusted my intuition, I would have been better off. I have been a Delhi lad, I have been a Noida lad, I know this place. Why did I close my eyes and trusted Google? I would have come much faster. So, till a time these problems are solved, I don't see AutoML or any kind of low-code, no-code platform replace. Probably some of the mundane, repeatable work will be shortened. Probably some of the lower-end process issues will be solved. But in my view, it will only aid a data scientist. It will only aid people to focus more towards the insights and actionable intelligence out of those insights, and rather focusing on what matters than the clutter of data that is around.
I think in my first organization itself, one of my leaders said that today's insight is tomorrow's report. And that's exactly what I think AI is doing, right? I mean, like you said, right, Swara, whatever our data scientists are doing today, if you break that work into the real brain work versus the process work, all the process work is going to get automated. It will get into all the low code, no code, and all of those things. But then the brain work will always remain, right? Because you always need that human intelligence. You always need that emotional side. You always need that responsible side, right? I mean, in the organizations, responsible AI has become such a big area nowadays, right? I mean, in consulting organizations, and Rajat will agree with me, we have set up separate teams to just talk to the clients about how responsibly they can cater to, right? There are certain features in the data sets which have been banned to be used for any models. I cannot use anyone's age. I cannot use anyone's region. I cannot use their gender, their religion, and all of these things because I don't want to be biased, right? So these rules can be still fed into AI, but still you will have to look at some of those nuances, and that is always going to be done with human intelligence, which doesn't go in there.
I don't want to drag it further, but yeah, it's not an either or, it's always a combination there. We usually use this word bionic. So whenever we have experimented, let's say a completely human judgment versus completely a machine judgment, in both these scenarios the results have been suboptimal or even, I would say, dangerous. It is a combination which gives you the right result, the desired value from this. It's never a replacement. Yes, I acknowledge that yes, these accelerators or these low-code, no-code platforms, it improves your go-to-market. Project that you do in 6 months can be delivered in 2 months. So it improves your go-to-market there, but it's not a replacement at all, it's a complement to you.
Thank you, Rajat. Now, if I switch back to a little bit into institutions, certainly the curriculums of most of the courses offered in the universities have evolved over the years. I mean, I remember when I was studying, it was basic COBOL, Fortran, Pascal, and C, and right now I'm sure there's Python and all the world and everything, right? So, how do you see institutions keeping up this change for the industry, and for what do you see in the industry?
Sure, I'll pick up what Saurabh was saying about the talent that we need in that industry. See, our institutes have to follow what the market or what the job has been, or what the market or the needs of the market has been. See, few things definitely institutes do. Of course, they instill the foundations in the candidates there, which is very much critical there. You see a lot of folks based on the buzzword of data science entering into the field, but lacking the foundations that is needed for that. However, that said, I think there is still some long way which is needed there. See, and of course I don't have a silver bullet answer for that, so these are few problems that I'll highlight, and maybe I'll suggest some or open up debate for some solution. See, the problem around is about the practicality. And it's it's not an easy thing. So whenever a new fresher came into an industry, I mean, for all his life, he would have just dealt with, let's say, some 10,000 of rows of data and maybe about 50 odd of variables. And now fast forward him to, let's say a bank, where the number of features that you're talking about are actually 5,000 plus. The customer DNA or the customer 360 is as big as something like a 5,000 odd variables. It's become overwhelming for these new kids to just absorb this kind of a thing and actually get lost there. So this is where organizations invest in training. However, a lot of this training, in my opinion, can actually be pushed back to the institutes there. A lot of this learning can actually be pushed back to the institute in making this as a real learning rather than just some limited learning there. Now I acknowledge the challenge there. The whole thing is that it's getting the real data. It's very easy to say that, okay, make your kids to address real problem. But to address real problem, you need real data. And in any course, it's very difficult for a 1-month project or a 2-month project to get access to a complex data. And perhaps that's why some of the institutes have started or spinning off this 6-month internship there. At least their students get this kind of an exposure of at least 6 months and playing around with real data, dirty their hands, or attempt multiple models, do some real things that they will end up doing in their job. The second challenge I would say is again that sort of said, is actually about the storytelling. I mean, to call it as analytics translators or bilinguals, whatever fancy word you can pull it up. You don't need these, of course you need the right depth, but at the same time you need to have that horizontal skill of able to communicate what your model has done. What business problem or what problem statement you're handling, be it a business problem, social problem or whatever, and how are you solving that? Until unless you don't infuse confidence, until unless you don't demystify your complex model, you'll be a black box solution. Some will trust you, some may not trust you. If you need adoption of these solutions, if you need rupee value from that, you really need to demystify that. And that skill, unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of courses coming up trying to be it, let's say, storytelling or actually coming as an interpreter or translators kind of a thing that I found. So these are the few skills, I think, which can be worked upon by the institutes so that the new generation comes out in a lot more holistic and a more coherent way rather than just having one depth of data science and that's it.
Thank you.
If I were to add just one more point, sorry.
No.
So I think, Rajat, I would agree to you to a certain extent, but one or two things which I would disagree, and that is because, see, in last 3 years, if I were to say, right, COVID time is when, I have seen at least in most of the organization, there was a sudden realization, right, because of all the, the surge in e-commerce people saw, or because of all the, online presence that people saw. There was all of a sudden a realization that, you don't need to be in office to really, contribute. Or you don't need to really, go and visit a store to buy something of your choice, right? And so on and so forth for all of the sectors, right? And that is where there was a sudden demand of lot of AI and ML and all of that, right? And hence, as a result, in last 3 to 4 years, I have also seen a lot of management schools introducing a data analytics course, right? Which means that, of course, these are the schools who've been doing a wonderful job of doing a management course, right? So they were still brilliant storytellers, but when it comes to the actual technical skills, it is somewhere I think these management schools who are running these data analytics programs need a lot of help from industry experts like us, right? Because they have seen the problems from a business side, when they have been interacting with the industry experts from an MBA lens, but they have not seen the problem from a data side. And that's where we, as the industry professionals, need to help them, need to guide them, right? And that's where I have seen a lot of institutes have also started taking up this industry advisory committee. I'm on some of the industry advisory committee as well. Every 6 months, they just sit down, review the entire curriculum that they have for their data analytics programs, whether it is for the undergraduate or postgraduate. And they invite the industry professionals, they invite some of the academicians, and they just relook at the, because of the fast pace, right, of the demand that is coming into the industry. They just look at the entire course and then they seek for advices in terms of the kind of skills that are required by the industry. And that's where I think we would play a big role as well.
It's actually an intersection between the business and the depth of data science. Unfortunately, it's a little small intersection, but I think you need to expand that. The business school needs to amp up on the tech, plus the tech schools need to amp up on the business side to become better students. But yes, that intersection is the need.
So with that, Saurav, if I may come to you, I mean, I know Professor Vamshi spoke about a story of a monkey and an elephant, I don't want to go there, but how do you think institutions and corporate can work together and solve this, these challenges in your experience?
So I have been advisor to few institutions of different level of maturity. There is no silver bullet, to be honest. If I were to look at a student and ask what's the primary question in their mind, they will say, Saurabh, what job will I get, what will land me a job, and what salary will I get? Everything else comes next. Now, you have to somewhere strike a fine balance. When I talk to promoters of these institutions, after 2 discussions on pedagogy and 2 board meetings, they end up talking, will you come for campus placements? Let me call a spade a spade. Now, the real trust of this relationship and this jugalbandi, so to say, will happen when we slightly loosen our set practices. We start thinking in terms of where we are creating value. Now, the moment you create value, money, jobs, everything will chase you. So the first thing first, they both need to learn from each other. Now, if a student comes out of this institution and says that I am a data scientist who understands data generated out of 5G and will be able to create, solve or augment few industry use cases from a 5G, trust me, I would have no problem hiring that student after that one sentence, maybe after some dipsticks here and there. Now, a lot has to go in the background. The institute has to understand the trend. The institute has to work closely with academia on the real problems that, rather with the organizations like ours, on real problems that us and our clients are facing, and then build a curriculum and maybe be very agile in terms of tweaking their course structure to the needs of next year, best case 24 months hence. Now, and if they do that, this will flourish. The next level will be those joint consulting assignments that are always there. We get, again, I'll be selfish and I'll be honest, we get a very low cost, almost no cost base if we were to engage students to do some research for us. I mean, if the students are ready, they're equipped, the industry would love to have them work alongside and certainly pick up some of the brighter and rather a pyramid. We don't want everybody who's Sachin Tendulkar. We also need Rahul Dravids. So we can always pick up a pyramid. Now, those are again, as I said, the fine balance that needs to be made. Last but not the least, with UGC opening the norms, a lot of professorial roles should open up for the industry, and at least my boss CP Gurnani doesn't mind moonlighting. So there are always options where you can do 2 jobs at a time and actually grow the industry. So I think a combination of these would actually encourage the industry institute participation the way you see in Americas or the European institutions, and that is the way to go.
Thank you. I mean, if I ask Mamta, with Microsoft taking a bet on OpenAI and investing $1 billion upfront in OpenAI, we are not too far away from Microsoft Outlook composing a reply to an email. because that's going to happen soon because they have GPT-3 access now. I mean, I'm sure it's in work in progress. So your platform, you spoke about 6 years back, Amex started this platform. They wouldn't have thought about some of these advancements in AI when you were building the platform. So how important it is, I mean, how these language models or text-to-image models are changing the tech stack when you're building a platform for yourself, for your firm. How do you address this?
First of all, I think you'll be very, very surprised, Shri, if I will tell you that this kind of a algorithm we have already built internally for our leaders. So there are automatic replies which get created of an email within the organization. So it's not new, okay? But of course, what these cloud platforms bring to the table is, one is the scale, right? And second, I think because they have the potential and the right deep pockets, they are able to invest heavily into the new technology. Right, so Chat GPT coming into the picture. I mean, everyone is playing, and I'm so scared to see the amount of data that is going to create even further for us. But anyways, any data that we are able to analyze is good data. But with that being said, right, NLP is going to be extremely important. You've seen, right? I mean, these days when I scroll on LinkedIn, 4 to 5 out of 10 posts that I see talks about the automatic caption creation when two people are speaking to each other, right? And I think Rajat, you were mentioning about, or I think somebody mentioned about, I think you only said the imagination when two people are speaking and online translation happens. But I think that's also not too far, right? If you can just create the captions automatically, you can also translate, right? So all of that would happen, and for that matter, NLP is going to become very, very important. But I also see it in a different way. How I see it is, when you are talking to a bot and the bot is responding, looking at, if you said something or the other. So the bot is trying to really predict your intention, what you were trying to say, right? But also at the same time, when you look at some of the best in class bots that are available, look at the bot that Amazon has, look at the bot that we have at MX. Most of the time, the bots which are really successful in solving, we will just finish. In solving the real customer problems are the ones which are menu driven. So you are not trying to guess what the user is trying to say, but you're asking user what exactly they want and not frustrating them. So I think, you will use NLP in creating this menu for the bot, but you will not use it on the face of it, is what I feel.
Sure.
NLP to NLG, that is where it's going. Now, Facebook or let's say YouTube knows all my song preferences, knows what rag I prefer, what time of the day, in what mood. Can AI actually create a song which is very customized for me? The days are not very far. And that's where we are headed.
But anyway, AI have generated trailers, movie trailers. Like even the generation part, I think the BI, the business intelligence was actually challenged at one point where they're reporting bots. Let's say if a CEO asks, how is my sales for last quarter, last month? What are my top 3 accounts? All these are actually being generated by the reporting bots.
So that is where we are headed. So the future of data science and analytics industry will be, in my opinion, perhaps automation of 70% of what we see as the real work today, and the curation of the remaining 30% with human intelligence, with intuition, with soft touch, and with ethics built in.
Okay. So, Rajat, if I may sum it up, if I may ask you to sum it up, and what would be your 2 cents on, next 5 years? Let's take us next 5 year horizon, and what do you think?
So I think it's an exciting time. Next 5 years would be with, I think, AI, ML, and all the technologies coming together. would be delivering a significant value to the businesses, to the social sector, and I would actually say, we keep saying AI for business, it's high time we start saying AI for purpose as well. So even in these sectors, I think it's a combination of these multiple technologies which will be delivering a significant value, solving unknown or even unsolvable problems that we think right now are. That is where I think the rubber will hit the road. That's where the bang for buck will come in. And I think I again re-emphasize that we keep saying about this, that the bots and even 70% automation, I think is the right word. It's always the right combination between the human and the machine that could realize and solve these issues. It will never be one-sided affair, and that, I think that would be at least in the next 5 years as well. Lastly, I think just to re-emphasize again, I think the responsible AI, the ethical AI, this is something which has been there. Many a times it got missed. It's not that it was deliberately done there. But I think the significant focus will now be doubling down. Even in India, if I just focus my energy on that, there was a bill which was pending in Parliament. I'm sure it will come again about data privacy, about all the factors which are needed to ensure that even in India, not just globally, but even in India, all the data securities, responsible AI frameworks are well baked into these kind of things. Even if something gets left out, I'm sure the organizations will take an extra step to bake in these kind of things without, so that there's no wrong foot on their side. So I think these are the 3-4 things I would see things moving in next 5 years.
Right. So for me, I think we did speak about what are those skills which are required, and I think we did talk about the storytellers or the people who would really do things end to end. So I feel that when our students are getting prepared to be a data scientist or a machine learning engineer or whatever, right? They tend to focus a lot on how they are going to build that really cool machine learning or deep learning algorithm that's going to really predict, the coolest thing in the world. But they tend to forget in a data modeling journey, and I'm not even talking about deployment, I'm still talking about, coming up with that insight. Within that journey also, 80% of my time goes into problem formulation and creating the right data for it. It's only that 10% that goes into really building those cool models, and then rest 10% is all about Saurav's favorite, data storytelling, visualization and all of that. So I feel really surprised when the students are running so much after that 10%, which is basically, if I were to put a skill to it, it is a skill of using data to solve a business problem, right? Whether you do it through a simple chart, or you do it through a Excel report, or you do it by building a machine learning model, deep learning model, chat, GPT, whatever, right? That's not important. What is important is, have you understood the problem well? Have you formulated it well? And are you in the right mindset to solve for it, rather than thinking, whether I was building a, neural network model or a GBM or things like that. So that's one thing which I strongly recommend all the students to focus a lot on. So think about problem solving rather than technique. That's one thing, and I think that's what the professors, I would request you all to instill that kind of thing in the students as well. I see a starking difference when the student come for us for internship, and after that 2 months or 6-month internship, the starking difference in the way they start thinking about a problem solving, and that's what, when I speak to some of the professors and myself as well, they say that as well, right? Just after the internship, the level of seriousness, the level of thought leadership that comes into the students is very different. So that is what I think, if we are able to instill in the first year of the program itself, that will help us from the industry a lot in hiring the right talent. Yeah, that's all.
I'll be quick. I mean, Mamta, Rajat, Shrikant, you covered it all in terms of future. But you touched a chord, Rajat, when you mentioned about this new bill, and you see data sovereignty. And I am part of few task forces and so-called pressure groups on sovereignty for the country and so on and so forth. That is changing the conundrum on how we are looking at data, how much available data would be in near future. So, going back to the topic of future job creation, synthetic data creation is going to be a big area. And something that I missed in my earlier response is students who are data scientists should also train themselves around data security. Somebody who has that combination would be loved by the industry, because data security is going and is already a big topic. And then if that transcends across metaverse, blockchain, 5G, IoT, more the merrier. So that's what is my message.
Thank you. I mean, if I may sum it up, I think, especially after COVID, I don't think analytics is anymore a discretionary expense in an enterprise. I think it has become a necessity, especially after COVID, because I think we have understood the need of data and database decision making. With that, I see a lot of enterprises moving into putting models into production. I think it's not going to be in a POC stage. I think they will use it for decision making. But with that comes a challenge where do you have the right change management in the organization to educate the business leaders, or a business leaders -1 saying that this is a decision taken by data. It could be a probability. It is not a deterministic. How do you do that? I think there's a big need for change management, for making business leaders think that it is from how do you switch from an intuition based decision to a human plus machine based decision making. With that, thank you Saurabh, Mamta and Ranjan for the insightful panel, and thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you, panel members. Now we are open for question and answer. If anybody has any questions to the panel members, may raise their hand.
My question is, do you see any domain which will rapidly involve AI strategies in developing? Like it can be from agriculture to space exploration, anything, but you'll be surprised to see that this domain is actually rapidly involving AI in their developments. Do you see any of the verticals or domains rapidly adapting to AI, which will adapt to AI in the next coming years?
Which industries are most? See, I think the leaders have always been, let's say, the financial services and telcos, where there has been the data that was generated, and they were smart enough to catch it. I think it then came out in the retail and consumer. But I'm actually pleasantly surprised with what you also mentioned about agriculture and even the social sector. Even I publicly in news, we supported the COVID war room. It was in public news, and the amount of data at that time which was generated and was even processed was something which is, at least I have seen it for the first time coming in for the social cause. So I think I would rate that, yes, you have the traditional industries, but these are the industries which are catching up fast and something to look for, be it agriculture, social sector. These are the ones I would put my money on.
I would say, given I have done retail for pretty much my career, I see that, again, I'll go back to the COVID analogy, right? E-commerce started so much, and still, when I'm buying things which are of low ticket value, I'm comfortable doing that. But when I need to do the same for a high ticket value, like a refrigerator or something else, or maybe a perfume, right? I don't want to do that online because I want to still have that touch and feel, right? And I think that's one area which is going to come in place very fast, right? One, I think metaverse is going to play a big role there. You will get to, have that touch and feel through metaverse with the sensory, I think experiences that we get built using AI. And like I mentioned about perfume, right? I don't think those days are far when, on a click of a button on your screen, you'll be able to actually test, do the testing of various perfumes or various, tea tastings or wine tastings, etc. as well, so that you will be able to buy these things at the comfort of your home as well.
Slightly switch the question. Don't look at industry, look at horizontals. You will see more AI in horizontals across the industry. So if you are looking at customer experience, user experience, etc., now vehicles can be metaverse, vehicles can be chatbots, vehicles can be very many. Think of it as where the adoption will be more. Think of supply chain where the adoption will be more. So start thinking in terms of horizontals or a combination of horizontal and verticals is just one added point.
Hi, Manish here. So my question is, what do you think about juggernauts like Amazon, Google controlling much of the innovation in the AI industry? So all the models that we see, like GPT and all, they all come from organizations who already have some budget to accommodate for research teams, and they are the ones who are creating all these innovations, and we are kind of relying on them a lot. We are kind of using their APIs for our use cases. Do you see Indian organizations in future come up with such models? And if there is currently one, which one is it?
Can I take that? Okay. I am, in the spirit of full transparency, I am a vendor to all the organizations that you mentioned, and I'm also a consumer of all the organizations that you mentioned. It's true, they are having a lion's share of innovation. Either they are creating it or they are buying it. And that's a reality. They are behemoths that cannot be avoided. Yesterday, a young entrepreneur asked me, Saurabh, I am setting up a startup on analytics. I said, piggyback on one of these. Build something that makes yourself interesting for them to buy you over after 3 years. And that's the only silver bullet I can offer, rest is your ingenuity. Now, so with that reality upon us, I am also party to working very closely with Office of Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India, part of CII Technology Council and different forums where I clearly see the impetus, the push and the grounds up knowledge coming up in India. If I were to say there is one Indian company which doesn't have any foreign investment and is having the lion's share of AI, maybe I cannot pinpoint one. It's always a combination. But there are certain organizations in this room who have done a great job at creating innovations in India, even implementing innovations in India. Sooner, you just heard of first Indian private space flight. If you heard few days back, a lot of satellites have gone into space. We call it a rocket science for want of a better term. Yes, the rocket science is coming. A lot of on-the-ground innovation is happening in agri-tech. A lot of on-the-ground innovation is happening. And guys, let's take pride in what we did in terms of Aadhaar. Let's try to take pride in what we did in terms of UI, ADI. I mean, these are humongous process-led innovative solutions that are there that no country in the world could have implemented or was able to implement at that scale with that kind of speed. That's Indian innovation for you, my friend. A lot of is happening. There was a bright young man few days back who came up with this great solution, and I'm slightly tweaking out from AI. He said the pollution problem of Delhi can be solved in 10 days. And I said, what is that answer? And he was speaking to some very esteemed people. He came up with a plan of having a filter on top of every taxi and every car, because that is where the smoke mostly resides. And that filter, when the car moves, the air will pull the pollutants towards that filter. The filter will take it away. When the car goes for refueling, there it can be cleaned. So there are some real bright innovations that are happening as we speak. Trust me, this is the era. And the present government not taking sides is certainly very open, and the dispensation is very open and encouraging of it.
And if I were to add, I mean, whether it's an Indian organization or a global organization, who is driving most of these innovations are the Indians behind it. So anyways, we should feel proud about ourselves.
I won't take much time, but see, India is known for, I mean, when I was in B school, there was a course on innovation and a prof used to say, frugal innovation, jugaad. Actually, it was a case that we actually studied there. So I don't think, though I hear your point that Googles and Microsofts have all the money there, but the amount of products that have failed for these organizations are also huge. We may not know. We may not know that Amazon actually launched a big bang mobile phone. It actually crashed. Google has so many products which are getting sunset. Amazon Drive, equivalent to a Google Drive, is getting sunset. So they have failed there. In India also, just in my opinion again, if we're addressing a real problem, if we're creating a value, and that solution is an innovative solution. UPI is a great example that we just talked about. The challenge comes in, it's in the scaling. These giants have deep pockets to scale up and do a good pitch or good sales work there. Many a times the Indian startups or the Indian homegrown organizations, they may struggle to scale up. They may not have these deep top pockets there. Perhaps that is also a nuance to look at that.
Thank you, panel members. I now request Arun sir to please come up on the stage for a group photograph and presenting a token of appreciation to our guests. I request sir to please present the memento to Ms. Mamta. Everybody please a round of applause while we give. I request sir to please present the memento to Mr. Rajat. Round of applause please. Sir, please present the memento to Mr. Saurabh. Sir, please present the memento to Mr. Shrikant. Thank you, everyone. After a very insightful sessions in the morning, we are on the second leg of the day. And now with us, we have a very special guest, Dr. Pradeep Chintagunta, whom I would like you all to invite with a round of applause. Dr. Pradeep K. Chintagunta is a Joseph T. and Bernice S. Lewis Distinguished Service Professor of Marketing at the Booth School of Business, University of Chicago. He is interested in empirically studying consumer agent and firm behavior, and more recently, development marketing, studying the role of marketing in economic development. He graduated from Northwestern University and has also served on the faculty of the Johnson School, Cornell University. He has been a visiting professor to Harvard and Stanford universities. Besides his role at SNU SME, he is an ISMS fellow and serves on the board of governors of the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. I request sir to please come up on the stage and deliver his keynote address.
Truth in advertising. I don't look anything like that. It's very nice to be here. Let me begin by thanking our hosts for inviting me. I think this is a fabulous campus, and I hope you all had the opportunity to experience it. Also, congratulations to all of you for making it this far, and thank you to our judging panel who are here. It's all around. I think I'm very pleased to be part of this gathering. So, thank you very much. A little bit about, so by the way, when I was entering this building, there was a quote there about opinions and data. I don't know how many of you saw that. Right? We have a version of that at the University of Chicago. Basically, it says, in God we trust, everyone else brings data to the table. Right? So it's, I think that's been used and reused by many people in many contexts all over the place. But at Chicago, we try to, take some credit for that line. So, I wasn't clear what exactly I was to talk to you about. So I thought I'll give you a couple of ideas to leave with you. One is, what at least my views on where analytics and data science is going. And I think, clearly on the technical side, all of you know a lot more than me. I did start off in analytics many years ago when I first got to the US in the late 80s. That was the time that marketing data started appearing in much higher frequency than it was before. So for the first time, we had something called scanner data. And scanner data basically was information coming from supermarket scanners. So every supermarket in the US had scanners at that point. And so we had daily data coming for every product category in every store in the US. Okay? And those data for us at that time, we thought was huge data, right? These days, I mean, those data are perhaps very small compared to what we have available. But a lot of my initial work started off by looking at those data and coming up with models to try and understand consumer behavior. Okay. So now, why am I saying all that? I think one of the things that becomes increasingly clear when you start looking at data is that looking at data is one thing, coming up with the insight is something entirely different, right? And so there's always this gap between the data and the insight. And so the trick is somehow to bridge the gap from data to the insight. And one of the things that I think will become increasingly important over time is what I refer to as ethnographic data science. Right? What does that mean? It means essentially that you need to be able to look at data and try to establish sort of systematic patterns from it, patterns that look different from the patterns that you might expect. Okay? Now, just because a pattern looks different doesn't mean that it's necessarily an insight, right? And so this is where you'll have to poke around some more, and I think that's where the ethnography part of it becomes relevant. I don't know how many of you are all familiar with ethnographic research. Basically, it's the idea that you need to observe a consumer, for example, in the way they are actually consuming a product or service. Perhaps the best known example of ethnographic research was when the former CEO of Pepsi basically spent some time at a supermarket. Those days, Pepsi was being sold in glass bottles. Okay? And so what the CEO saw was women, primarily who were doing the shopping at that time, would go to the store, pick up the crate of Pepsi, put it down, pick up a couple of bottles, and walk away. Okay? That was the observation. Okay? Now, you could have looked at that observation and basically concluded that they changed their minds about how much Pepsi they wanted to buy and essentially decided to buy less than what they intended to buy originally. Okay? But what was the real insight? The real insight was the fact that the women were finding carrying a whole crate of glass bottles too hard for them. Yeah? Which meant that although they really wanted to buy more Pepsi, they ended up buying less simply because of the fact it was too heavy. And so that insight led then to the repackaging of the soda into cans and plastic bottles. Okay? And so the idea of actually observing the consumer in the way they are consuming the product gives you an insight about the behavior of the consumer. Now, with data science and analytics, that's much more difficult, right? You really don't have the ability to go and ask the person whose data you're looking at, hey, what were you thinking of when you were doing this? Instead, what you have to do is that you have to develop a very keen sense of experimentation. Okay? You see this insight in the data, and from that, you're going to set up a hypothesis. I believe that this could be the case, which is sort of generating this unusual pattern. Okay? So the next step after ethnography is experimentation. Right? So you need to have a systematic process of experimenting to try and see whether the hypothesis you had based on that pattern you saw is now actually true or not in the data. Okay? And for that, you need to have the ability to design experiments well and then to execute those experiments. Okay? And the last thing is to actually test out with the experiment and the data whether or not your hypothesis is supported. If you find that your hypothesis is supported, then you take a particular action. Okay? And after you've taken the action, you can get the feedback as to what really happened as a consequence of your taking the action, and you can go back and revise your hypothesis. Okay? So that's generally the way you might want to think of it, which means other than the technical skills of looking at the data and fitting complicated models to it, you also need to have this ability to get the insight through ethnography and the ability to design and run experiments. Okay? So it's possible that not all of us might be trained in all these areas, and so small team data science, where you have all these skills embedded, might be one direction in which you might think that that we are going towards. Okay? Obviously, things are going to get more complicated, and skills are going to expand and develop. So that's one of the things that I at least wanted to communicate. The other thing that I think we often don't realize in data science is the data are actually coming from people, right? So this is not just the fact that you observe bits and bytes, but this is actually people whose information you're leveraging to get an insight. So ultimately, you will have to respect the data just as much as you would want to respect the people who are generating the data. So whatever you do, right, so you might be thinking of how do I get someone to click on an ad for a casino, right? The person is living 1,000 miles away. All you're interested in is generating that one when someone clicks on the ad for the casino. When you're doing that, keep in mind what might be the potential consequences that could happen if this person clicked on the ad for the casino, right? So there could be a whole lot of things that you don't anticipate that could happen. So keep in mind that there are people whose data you're handling. Treat them with the same kind of respect that you would treat people. Respect their privacy. Respect the sanctity of the data. And I think that's sort of the other message. Don't want to make this sound particularly gloomy, so let me try and give you a little bit about where I think analytics really has, data analytics has a really big role to play that we haven't quite harnessed as yet. So so let me ask you this. If you think about the total retail sales in India, how much do you think it is? It's $1 trillion, $5 trillion, $10 trillion, roughly? Go ahead. How much? 3 trillion. Okay. Any other? Anyone else? It's $1 trillion. Okay. By comparison, if you look at a market like the US or China, retail sales are about 5 to 6 trillion. Okay? Now, why am I giving you this figure? If you look at the United States, by contrast, and look at the number of retail establishments, okay, how many do you think there are? 1 million, 5 million, or 10 million? Just guess. It's okay. 1 million. That's right. Right? So there are 1 million establishments generating about 5 to 6 trillion in sales. By contrast, what is the situation in India? Retail sales of $1 trillion. How many retail establishments? Yeah, it's about 12 million retail establishments. Okay, so you get the difference largely for reasons that you all know, which is that a lot of retail establishments tend to be very small. Okay, now We know also the fact that large multinationals depend critically upon sales via these small stores to ultimately reach the consumer. That also we know, which means that the success of these small businesses ultimately is going to drive the success of many of the large businesses. So if you look at the Procter & Gamble's of the world and the Unilevers of the world, 70% of their future growth is likely to come from emerging markets like Africa, etc. Right? So really what you want to do then is to make sure that the small businesses are really successful. Okay? One of the things though about these small businesses is that they are not very good in essentially using their data or even collecting them. Right? So collecting and harnessing the data from small businesses, I think, is really a huge opportunity for analytics. So I've done some work in Africa where we tried to get small businesses, and this was a large randomized control field experiment, where we tried to get these small businesses to collect their data and then presented them with very, very simple analytics based on their data. Right? Within 6 months, you could show that their sales and profits had gone up by between 30 and 60%. Okay? And so there is a lot of scope, I believe, that we still have to explore in terms of leveraging both the data as well as the analytics around small businesses. I think this is a huge opportunity, and I'm sure our judging panel here, of course, you've all worked with that and are quite familiar with this. But I do believe that this is something that we can look forward to by improving the performance of these small businesses. Ultimately, you're going to see overall economic developments of the country as well, right? And so I think this is, in terms of future directions, I do think this is going to be something that we are increasingly going to be paying attention to. So I think that's about all I wanted to say today. But again, congratulations, great job, and hope you continue your interest in this area. It's certainly an area that's very close to my heart and something that I find very important and very useful. And hopefully, you'll all have great careers in this field. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful address. I request Pradeep sir again to please come on the stage, and Dr. Bibek Banerjee to please present him with a memento as a token of appreciation. And Arun sir, if you could also join us on stage for a photograph.
Can I?
We can have a photograph first, sir.
Okay.
Jyoti, please bring the memento. Yes, sir. It's an absolute honor to invite to the stage our respected Dean of School of Management and Entrepreneurship, Dr. Bibek Banerjee, with a humble request to address the gathering. Dr. Bibek Banerjee holds his PhD and MS degrees from Purdue University, USA in Applied Microeconomics and Marketing Science. His BSc Economics Honours degree is from University of Calcutta, St. Xavier's College. He is a former professor of marketing at IIM Ahmedabad, where he spent 19 years of his career. In his distinguished academic career spanning 28 years, Dr. Banerjee has published extensively in top-tier journals and has held visiting professor positions in several universities around the world. Dr. Banerjee was instrumental in creating the collaboration between IIM Ahmedabad and the world's top leadership education institution of Duke University, USA. As the chair of the marketing area at IIM Ahmedabad, he was among the first management academics in India to successfully adopt engaged learning methods such as business simulations using digital technology in the curriculum of IIM Ahmedabad. Dr. Banerjee is also the former Director General Academic Mentor of IMT Ghaziabad and its sister campuses in Dubai and Nagpur. It was under his leadership and guidance that IMT Ghaziabad achieved the most coveted AAC SB Business Accreditation in record cycle time and climbed into the Ivy League of Indian business schools in the private sector. Dr. Banerjee is also an honorary director of Academy of Indian Marketing. He was instrumental in conceptualizing and implementing the American Marketing Association supported doctoral consortium of scholars and young faculty in marketing, consumer sciences, and in India. I request you, sir, to please address the gathering.
Friends, thank you so much, and thank you so very much to the jury and, of course, Pradeep, and all the participants who have, bravely fought on to be here in the ultimate league of this journey. I don't know how my bio got so much longer than Pradeep's. I mean, it is certainly not the plan, but see, I wasn't. This is again, these guys love putting me on the spot. I was not supposed to give a talk, but I was to give a vote of thanks. But just a few words that, I have in the lines that Pradeep was mentioning. You see, the interface between the world of practice and the world of academia has been a subject of great interest, relevance, but, we all understand the benefits of it. But we all know that we don't collaborate enough. At least that's been my personal experience, and not just this institution, but across institutions, because we have our own world to sort of take care of. And when we were thinking about, at SME, the Shiv University, the School of Management is the youngest school. We have, as you know, we have 4 schools, engineering, humanities and social sciences, natural sciences, and management and entrepreneurship. And therefore, in a very short journey, we were thinking about what we could do to create a platform where the world of practice engages with the world of academia. And in that, we started this Analytics Olympiad with the collaboration with Analytics India. Last year, to bring essentially the practice leaders and the academic faculty, and of course the biggest stakeholders, the students and the analytics jocks, together to take a stab at some data-driven problems. So, I think it's great to see the second version of this engagement with solid participation, and of course we are always going to be thankful to the jury and the Megha and folks who were last year here as well, so they are veterans now. But I just want to take this opportunity, since you have put me on the stage, to share with you what we are doing as a university. We believe that in the ubiquitous world of data at your fingertips, the quality of education is no longer knowledge in and of itself and its sharing, because they are pretty much available much more easily than they have ever been, and it's pretty much available on your handheld device on most of the issues. But at the same time, we were just having this conversation during lunchtime, that academic institutions in this country have to stop just being knowledge disseminators, but also knowledge creators. And that essentially means that research as a mindset, research as an integral element of knowledge, okay? Whether it is knowledge about how to influence practice, knowledge about how to create even theoretical models, creating, garnering insights out of processes, always requires, an element of discovery and thinking through creation of a new knowledge. Of course, Pradeep shared with us the insight about Pepsi's insight. I can share with you another project that I was, I was lucky to have sort of examined from the sides, which was more to do with public life. Like in Mumbai, for example, a lot of the slums along the railway tracks would have very high rate of mortality because of people underestimating the speed of the train at which they pass. And this was done before the days of earpods and etc., which are of course additional reasons. So the question was, why are there people essentially getting run over by trains? Kids and even adults. And there was, of course, all kinds of hypotheses with little data, but it required really setting up of much of the ethnographic sort of research to really observe what was causing this. And what was found was essentially even if, people, even when they are watching the train coming, they would estimate the speed at which the train is coming. And the solution to that was, curiously, essentially painting every alternative train tracks yellow, so that the visual cue of the speed at which the yellows are disappearing under the train would aid cognitively processing the speed of the train. So I thought that, basically going forward on what Pradeep was talking about, that, behind the data, there are insights for which, this mindset of course, there's if there is existing knowledge that has already solved that problem, those would be the first ones we're going to attempt to implement. But a lot of the times, they may not be sort of solving the problem, and that requires a mindset which is about, a research mindset to go to the field and actually work with the problem hands-on. So we are trying to do that in all of our undergraduate as well as postgraduate programs over here. We have 2 undergraduate programs that the business school does. One is the Bachelor of Management Studies. The other is Bachelor of Economics and Finance. The second program is much more boring. I can tell you that because my PhD is in economics. No, I was just joking. In the BMS program, in the Management Studies program, we have introduced a course called the Venture Laboratory, where it is a core course that every student will have to, in groups, think about a new business, set it up, raise money for it, and try to run it for 1 year. Okay, and as you know, our school of the business school in SNU is called School of Management and Entrepreneurship. So we believe that, while there are theories of entrepreneurship, and of course they're going to learn all the theories of management, but it really creates a different magic when you're actually trying to solve for something and create something. Similarly, in the MBA program, we have a business challenge practicum, where the idea is to source projects from the industry. As we all know, in the world of practice, I think most of the leaders sitting over here, the jury would agree with me if I said that we have more unsolved problems than the solved problems. We have many more questions that we have time to solve for. And you have the academic machinery over here who are hunkering for such problems to come in, so that our learners over here, along with the faculty, can take a stab at it. So we started this business challenge practicum in which MBA students or master students actually work with industry real-time projects, and we give them a runway from 6 months to 9 months to work on it. And this is a 4-credit course, so it is depending upon the depth and breadth of the project, it could be 6 to 9 credits, mentored again by a faculty and an industry sponsor. So we are trying out with that, and of course the third is the the most resource-intensive program of PhD, where, of course, Pradeep, we are absolutely lucky to have somebody like him who's guiding us as to how do we, create knowledge at the highest level of precision and what we call, highest level of academic contribution. And we are getting a lot of people. Academia is a great career, and we believe that, especially those folks who are in this room who believe in data and modeling, etc. At some point in life, it is worth considering, and we are always looking out for bright students bright scholars to sort of join the program. To create the knowledge that they themselves or somebody else would disseminate later on. Okay, so I really look forward to hopefully the Analytics Olympiad movement. I see it as a movement. We have started small, but this movement going forward and also growing in its heft and depth, and this demographic dividend of India that we are all talking about. I think there's a lot to be done. We are aware of, yesterday night we had a session, well-resourced session with the leaders over here, discussing about how much talent there is in the country that it is a challenge for us to sort of harness. And I hope with the able leadership of Arun and his team, the Analytics Olympiad is going to get bigger and bigger and solve not just the corporate problem or not just the university problem, but actually solve the country's problem in really harnessing the young people's talent and creativity. So I will stop there. Thank you very much for being here, and congratulations to all those who are in the room, and some of you I'm told would get some awards and stuff. So great. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It is time for the much awaited section of the day, the awards presentation. I'm sure the finalists would be very nervous and excited for this to know the result, obviously. But before we start, we would quickly like to show you a 2-minute video about yesterday's program. To start with the ceremony, I would like to invite on stage Dr. Vivek Banerjee and Mr. Arun Gupta to honor our respected jury member who took out our time from their busy schedule and honor us by being part of the Olympiad. Please, sir. So we had 3 jury members yesterday, and unfortunately, due to some work commitments, 2 of them could not be here present today. We have with us Mr. Rishi Jain, Director of Product Management from Tata 1MG. We would like to have a photograph first, sir. I request Vivek sir to please present the memento to Mr. Rishi Jain. Sir, I request you to please remain on the stage. Before we announce the result, I would like to request the participants to come up on the stage as I announce their names and receive their certificate of participation. And we would start with Manish Pathak, Senior Data Scientist. I would request everyone to keep applauding for them because they have worked really hard to reach up till here. They had been 1,000 plus registrations, and out of them, they had been the top 9 finalists. Gopi Durga Prasad, Data Scientist at KarmaLife.ai. Mahesh Chandra, Computer Science graduate. Shubham Sahai, Associate Consultant at KPMG. Rajan Goyal, I don't think so, he's here with us. Varun Jagannath, Senior Data Scientist. Rishi Madhav M, Presales and Solutions Lead, Data and Analytics. Mukund Singh, Associate Data Scientist. Sudhakaran K, Programmer Analyst. Now it's time for the moment all have been waiting for, especially our finalists. And we would like to invite Dr. Pradeep Chintagunta, sir, to be present on the stage and present the trophies to the winner.
Getting my exercise.
This is the first one, second runner. First runner. How can we get this stuff?
Do I need to build up? I think we. So the second runner-up is Rishi Madhav. The first runner-up is Varun Jagannath. And now, the winner. The winner for Analytics Olympiad 2022 is Manish Pathak. Everybody, please give a round of applause to him. I think we are done for that day, sir. Now I would request Arun sir to please present a vote of thanks. Thank you, sir. Congratulations, winners and the participants.
Thank you, Preeti. I would like to place on record on behalf of the Academy of Continuing Education our sincere thanks to the management of Shiv Nadar University and management of Analytics India magazine for their support, encouragement, approvals to make this happen this year. I also would like to thank the Chancellor of Shiv Nadar University, Mr. Shikhar Malhotra, Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ananya Mukherjee, Dean, Dr. Vivek Banerjee of School of Management and Entrepreneurship, as well as Academy of Continuing Education. I would like to thank our former jury members and current jury members, the industry participants, the industry panel members, all the team members from marketing, all the support from the partners, our faculty members, my colleagues. A few members I would like to name, like Preeti and Jyoti, and her assisted by Amit and Sundar, who've been really at it, and they've really been working very hard behind the scenes. I would also like to acknowledge behind the scenes functions of administration, finance, the logistics teams. You know, there's a huge plethora of ticketing and traveling, of transportation, of taxi bookings happening behind the scenes. I really want to acknowledge all the partners, and I thank everybody for being here. and it's been wonderful. And we found a lot of good friends. And Mamta found her uncle, who she's not met for a long time, I think. So thank you everybody for being here. And I think whoever's here, if you could all join the stage, we'll have a group photograph with everybody, so it kind of becomes a commemorative photograph. Whoever can join the stage, please. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, one group photograph, Preeti, Jyoti, please everybody join. Yeah, come please, everybody who is there, please join. Ankur, please, Kaushik, yeah, everybody is joining. Please join, sir. Everybody, whoever is there. Come.
Come.
Whoever is here, come.
It's okay. More for them.
Oh, Jyoti, Jyoti, you, Preeti, please join in. Don't. Jyoti, please join in. Where is Vinky?
So you're also a Okay.
Please join. Come, everybody please join. Sumail, please join in. Come this side. Please, Jyoti, don't hide behind. Come. Jyoti, please come. Where is Sumail calling? कोई बात नहीं, hidden inside.
hackathons that are conducted across the globe focus on a single measure of success, which is the predictive performance. If you look at the results, the difference in terms of the performance metric for the top 1 to 2 participants is very negligible. Naturally, the focus of participants in these hackathons is to try out different techniques and ensembles to get their nose ahead of the rest. Any analytics manager will tell you that this is not consistent with what is expected of analytics professionals in practice. In any real-life project, model explainability and storytelling are equally important aspects. In Analytics Olympiad, we have addressed these issues. Here, the evaluation is holistic and not just based on predictive performance. To be specific, in the first round, the participants are expected to solve a problem and submit their solutions. Participants whose solutions meet an acceptable criteria of predictive performance are shortlisted and are invited to submit their solutions in the form of a presentation. The solutions are then evaluated not just based on technical aspects, but on their overall potential to impact the business. Finally, the top 10 participants are invited to the beautiful campus of Shiv Nadar Institution of Eminence, where they make a face-to-face presentation to an eminent jury comprising of senior analytics leaders who determine who the winners of the Olympiad are. To summarize, Analytics Olympiad is an analytics competition which is more closely aligned with real-life analytics projects than other hackathons.